here. If we see the industry challenges, if we take one step aside and see the last 6 years, the kind of disruption every sector has faced is unprecedented, starting with pandemic, followed by geopolitical stability, and followed by technology disruptions. So there are challenges on business along with the challenges on talent, right? Again, there are conventional challenges with talent in terms of skill gap, in terms of retention, and with pandemic there is a widespread talent across the nation. Now we see talent everywhere, which is a good problem to have. So the important point is what are the measures taken to overcome it, right? How, whether it's as early stage startup, a mid stage enterprise, or a large enterprise, the steps taken to overcome these challenges. So if we see a technology sector point of view, which is what I would like to share a couple of points, technology sector has been very pivotal in the growth of the entire segment. Despite of several disruptions, tech sector has seen a positive growth, right, in the last couple of years, and as we stand today, it is $254 billion revenue generating segment with 5.4 million workforce, and with a strong diverse workforce of close to 36% women, right? And these challenges of diversified or spread over workforce have also given opportunity to reach various geographies. We see a lot of tier 2, tier 3 centers picking up in tapping large potential of talent across these segments. So these and of course not the new block, the most prominent kid across the block, the Gen AI. In the recent survey, we see a lot of enterprises have committed their spend on Gen AI, building Gen AI capabilities. So it's a two-way street. One, of course, the academia coming forefront, building those partnerships with the relevant tech players to build the capacity to the students, and of course again industry also moving that hand to bring the practitioner's point of view to overcome these challenges, to build or reduce the skill gap, to bring solutions close to reality. So these are few aspects which we see is happening, and India leading the AI wave. I think with the inevitable India, as everyone speak, there is a large demand on with talent and technology are taking a center stage for every enterprise, as Mr. Rajesh said, to reimagine, to rewrite, to their entire growth pattern. So we see a lot of opportunities for the ecosystem, for the academia. It's more how these enabling initiatives will help them leverage the most out of it and reduce the scale.
Thank you. I like the word inevitable India. I like it. From incredible India to inevitable India. Wonderful. Thank you for that, Raghu. Ramesh, Dr. Ramesh, you have been leading this organization, I think last 2 years you mentioned. It's into product, it's into digital infrastructure for banking. As a product leader, this company and yourself, what's your experience, right? I mean, and you have a mix of a global presence outside India and India. What's your perspective on this entire scenario right now? Would love to hear from you.
Sure, thank you. I think it's probably the most pertinent topic of how do we manage the talent paradox, because whether it's a product company or a services or any other industry, without talent, I don't think it's going to move forward or there will be any progress, right? So while many points have already been called out, first is my perspective being on both industry and academia side is that the temptation to have a very short-term view needs to go both from the industry side as well as the academia side. And Professor Desai called out that an industry looks at it from a quarter-on-quarter versus a few years. I think I was fortunate to experience both sides. And that temptation is very much there today. While we talk of wanting solutions, from the industry we want them to be quick fix, turnkey, very point in time, which is not always the right scenario. Similarly, academicians, I think Shrikant called this out, right? That the first conversation always is about, can you come over for campus placements, right? So the moment the short term view goes out, there is a possibility for a more meaningful conversation. That's my view. Second, both sides need to adopt a more supply chain type of a view, right? If you take an automobile industry, the supply chain is set up in a way that it's always for the long run. There are partner, dealer tie-ups, there are spare part tie-ups, there is a whole set of experts who are always associated with the spare part dealers or others. There are panels that are conducted, there is a huge amount of testing that's conducted before even a single nut or a bolt goes into a car, right? So I think that supply chain mindset needs to come in, whether it's a service company, product company, or any other industry, which will then automatically shift the view from a short term to a more medium term, long term. And thirdly, very important, well, there's a lot of talk of AI. I always call this out. One of my passion is to talk about emotional intelligence. The PI model that Shrikant called out, or the T model we had, I will put a foundational bar below, which is, call it the Roman letter 2 model or I model, is the NI, which is the natural intelligence. In all this buzz and noise that we are hearing about all of these, most students, unfortunately, maybe for no fault of theirs, are severely lacking, or they need desperate help on that, is how do we deal with this constant influx of information, and how do we build that natural intelligence, right? Make it stronger, the emotional intelligence. And our entire education system has been on who's got the best marks, who's going to the top institutes, who's scored the maximum. And we are all part of it. Let's admit it, we are all part of it, right? So till that obsession with only top institutes, top marks, top percentages it's there. We will have this same dialogue again a few years down the line. If we really want solutions and this to work, we'll have to step away from that. I think those will be my 3 things. Focus on foundational aspects from a student side as well as industry side. And since I'm on both sides, I'm being blunt about it. Yeah.
Fantastic. And artificial intelligence versus natural intelligence is not the thing. It's AI plus NI. Fabulous. Nice. I'll use that in some of my panel discussions as well, Doctor. Thank you for that. Rajesh, coming back to you, right? AI disruption, it's just become synonymous. But I think this could also be the moment for our country. What do you see how we can all come together as a community, right? So that's what we're trying to do. But how can we do it? How can we really make it happen? Any prescriptive steps that you can suggest?
Yeah, in terms of the best prescription that one can give is based on the model that has worked for us in the past, right? When I was setting up a financial processing services company along with Raman way back 10, 12 years ago, at that point of time when I used to go to any bank or a financial institute, they used to give the example of a China Union Pay. And they used to say China Union Pay is the world leader in the financial processing, and China it exceeded India by a very, very wide margin from a digital payments perspective. And now if you look at, China is trailing far behind India from a digital payments. Recently there was also a WhatsApp forward that was showing a timeline how India has raced much ahead of China. So if we decipher in terms of what has happened, one, I'm not saying that we should bring in another demon exercise. That will be disastrous. So I'm not saying that you should bring in a demonetization experience. But what has happened is there was a clarion call from the Honorable Prime Minister and also the others saying that you should teach other people how to do digital payments, right? Today, now it's quite possible, I'm not trying to demean, but it's quite possible that a beggar on the street may teach other person how to accept a digital payment, right? They know how to start using the digital payment. So if you take that particular model, can we do the same thing like one teach and another person with regards to artificial intelligence? Can we replicate that particular model in terms of, first of all, what is AI? And here the focus is not on technology, the focus is on outcome. And one good example is Uber. If you tell your granny that Uber has cloud, Uber has robotic process automation, Uber has machine learning, she will throw the phone away, right? You're not going to tell her that. You're going to tell her that if you want to go from point A to point B in a safest and the cheapest manner, here is an app that will work for you. That is outcome and an experience led rather than focusing on the underlying technology. So is the case with AI, where you have to focus on what is the experience it is going to deliver and how it is going to make one's life a lot more simpler and easier. So if you bring that particular narrative forward and use some of the models that have helped us in the country and replicate it, then we will be far, far ahead when compared to others in the world of artificial intelligence. Whether it's artificial intelligence or natural intelligence, the idea is to make things better for an individual.
Yeah, exactly. And I do foresee that there is a requirement for AI for grandparents as a session too sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, AI for kids as well, right?
Of course.
In terms of, it's not only for grandparents, maybe if you make the experience easier, it may turn the tables and the grandparent may be teaching it to the kid.
Wow, that would be interesting. Thank you. Thanks for that. Raghu, next question to you. We were discussing during our IAC meetings and as well, there are a lot of policy recommendations around fellowships, internships already with AICTE and other education bodies. But what could be done to make it really more meaningful, right? We had a couple of viewpoints in the morning session, but just to make it more programmatic, if you could share some of your viewpoints, and we will also try to incorporate that as part of this IAC policy framework. Yeah,
I'm sure you will put me in spot. So, see, my point of view is the policy is mainly enabler to provide the basic access to facility, to mentorship, to enhance the knowledge and experience. Let me share my, experience. When I've started my career, I've, worked for a manufacturing organization where the training period was 1 year. So we were told to have a 6 months, just the training across various departments to understand how the business functions, and then 6 months on the job for a specific department which we will work in to understand how the workflow and what needs to be done and how it works, so on and so forth. For the first 1 year, it doesn't make any sense because as a youngster, we always wanted to jump on, the project, live project which is in progress and be the star, take that, award and good grant money and so on and so forth. But at the end of the year, we realize the actual sense of, imparting the training. It's not just to directly enhance our tech and soft skills. It is also to embed the cultural fit into the organization to see if we can, have the same vision of what, business is taking. So these any initiative which will enable, of course, we have chief guest and Shrikant sir and all the panelists have impressed upon the practitioner's point of view to understand the application per se, to have the right solutions in place. So, and I was also, looking for one of the, reading one of the podcasts where one of the leaders said, do not get fixated on what you want to do. Focus on, your fundamental aspect of what the problem is and how will you approach to do it, and take every opportunity it comes. This will lead you, in a right path. So I believe the stress upon the foundation of the problem skills, inculcating the cultural fit for with the enterprises. These things, will take along for any individual or also enterprises to have a long-term, strategy.
Oh, perfect. That's a very important point. And I think that leads to the question to you, Dr. Ramesh. Cultural fit, when you're hiring people, you cannot really make out in the first few interviews, 5 hours, how culturally fit this person will be to my organization. What are the basic tenets that you follow while hiring processes, right? What kind of mindset this person has? Anything that you can share, our students here will benefit a lot.
Yeah, great question on that, and very valid in how they get selected, as well as what we typically look at, especially in a product type of scenario, is that ability. We've talked so much about solving problems, right? If you extend that further, is there a bit of a design thinking mindset? We, of course, in 30 minutes, 1 hour, you can't find out all of it, but in the past, even if you're studying during your engineering days, what are some of the activities? I typically, for instance, look at beyond the academics. I believe IQ is there with everybody nowadays. Everybody has a very high level of IQ. What are some of the areas where this IQA has been applied? B, I talked of the emotional angle, right? Have you been able to take that mindset forward on addressing some very practical scenarios in your institute? Second thing is the dynamic aspect, right? Beyond the academics, have you also participated in various activities that are helping in the institution building? For instance, have you been on some committees? Have you been part of anything environment friendly, right? So where you can see that passion coming out of your what you have done there. The third thing I think is very clearly a can-do. We talk so much about it. There are no ready-made solutions in any place. Is that can-do spark or that attitude coming through in your actions so far, whether it's in your engineering or even outside? So if that ability, I think, matters a lot. In fact, in our current organization, it's one of our values, and that can do also brings out the sense of entrepreneurship, and it's not always waiting for direction. Culturally, unfortunately, India has been a bit of a direction taking scenario, and it used to hurt me when so many of my clients, and when I was on the consulting and services side, despite the best efforts, they would always point out that if you have a floor, everybody is waiting for instructions rather than standing up and saying something is wrong and this is how I'll solve it, or this is how we'll do it, why don't you listen to us? So that I don't, and even unfortunately our organizations don't encourage too much of that. That's a reality, right? So I think these 3-4 things as a combination are what we would broadly look at in a selection process, right?
यहाँ पे कोई क्वेश्चन पूछता है तो बोलता है अरे क्रांतिकारी आ गया. We don't want.
I call that out because it's not just the students. We as people who are interviewing them need a mindset change.
We do, and I think 25 years back we were getting interviewed, and we were talking like that, and now we want the other person to just tone down a little bit and work in a.
Just to add to what Ramesh has mentioned, all wonderful points, Ramesh. Only one thing that I wanted to mention is we seem to be living in a world where fake it till you make it seems to work, but when it comes to culture, faking it doesn't work. And it takes 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes for an experienced person to figure out whether you're faking it or you're really saying it. So for God's sake, don't ever follow that practice of faking it.
Brilliant point. Thank you for that. And I don't have any questions to you guys, but I just want, for the sake of the initiative, for the industry academic connect, 30 seconds each one of you, what is the commitment that you guys can make? And I'll start with Dr. Ramesh.
Sure.
For taking this initiative forward. And this is getting recorded.
Yeah. After this, I'm going to get this tattooed on myself as well. So my commitment clearly is, I've shared this with both Manish and Pankaj already, is that I'll be there to share my experiences, and I clearly told him I don't want it to be a one-off sharing, would like to be associated probably with the full batch for a longer time, and quite frankly, I'm done with turnkey solutions and quick fixes, right? So that's my commitment.
Oh, thank you. We have already counted you in. We sort of volunteered you already for that. So thank you. And Ramesh, I think there's lots to do together. There is, I see, not just through the organization that you're working with, but in your personal capacity. I think even if we can influence the students a wee bit with the learning that you have, that would be immense for them.
Sure. And I'll be more than happy. One last statement that applies to both all of us is, personally, I keep reminding myself is this will need a lot of patience and perseverance. I hope that's something that we are all, FTCCI especially with as this, the institute that's bringing everybody together and talent farm, while we'll commit, it'll need a lot of patience to get the required outcomes, right? So Pankaj, I'm only looking at you here. So, thank you. Thanks again for that.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh. Good point. Raghu?
I'm already part of this ICT, so please don't ask me any more commitment. I am already committed. See, from NASCOM standpoint, we are always with, we support these initiatives which are the enablers for the industry, academia, and all the stakeholders. We are committed to work along with industry and academia to make it happen, make it, a large success. And yeah, I am with Srikanth sir. If given a choice, even I want to be part of this youth. At least I can tell I am part of youth.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that's not the reality. Thank you. And Raghu, your massive network that you have on the other side, I think we will drill into that a lot as we go forward. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yes, to you.
Yeah, from my side, 2 points. One is in terms of, after so many accomplishments, I made one decision 18 months ago, which finally made my dad to say, "Nalayak se layak ban gaya." Because I decided to do PhD, which my dad did way back in 70s. He was one of the few PhDs in the world in grape culture, viticulture. Then it's a different thing that he went down the career path with a bank. So that was his cherished ambition to see his son with a doctorate degree. So I finally decided to do. And that to juxtapose that to what Professor Saab said earlier, enlightened self-interest. So with given my PhD journey and my enlightened self-interest, being a professor of practice comes naturally because it's of my enlightened self-interest. So if you have to marry this both, I'm happy to contribute probably 8 to 10 hours in a month to the student community, which I am committing to do that.
Thank you, Rajesh.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
This is one of my personal soft initiatives since almost 20 years, where we want to work with the students and see what the industry folks can come together and share their experiences. We got a lovely platform with FTCCI to run this as a large initiative now, and we will bring this to all the colleges that we are working very closely with. In fact, in the next 3 to 6 months, we should be having at least 100 students doing full-time internship with at least 10 projects or 10 companies. That's our first milestone. And immediately, we would want to take this into 2 different aspects. One, where we want to do the nurture program, where we will engage about 100 women students. And the second is the accelerate program, where we will do a lot of large initiatives together. So thanks to FTCCI for allowing us to bring this initiative together. I want to thank all the colleges who have committed so far. We wish the rest of the colleges come soon. I also want to thank all the industry members around us who have come together and giving us all the strength to be part of this initiative. This will go a long way in creating a platform for nation building in a very small way that we people can organize. Thank you, and we will come back to you very soon with more updates on this. Thanks.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
I think we had a great event today in terms of Industry Academia Connect program by FTCCI and powered by Talent Farm. We had some wonderful speakers in terms of Mr. Rajesh Dudu, Mr. Srikanth Sinha. We had our chief guest, Professor Uday Desai. We had a special address by Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. We spent a lot of time in emphasizing the need for industry and academia to work together and ensure that we create models which are effective.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
Hi, I think we had a great event today, the FTCCI Industry Academia Connect initiative. We had industry leaders, leaders from the academia, and students all joining in and debating, discussing about how industry, academia, and students can work together to ensure that on one end we help the students from getting great employability opportunities, and on the other side we can solve the talent challenge that industry faces. I'm very thankful to all the mentors, to the industry guests who came down, who shared their insights on this. We had leaders like Rajesh Dudu, we had Mr. Shrikant Sinha from Task, we had Avnish Bhatnagar from ServiceNow, we had Rashi Srivastav from Quintelli. I think it was a wonderful event. Thanks to Professor Uday Desai, who was the chief guest, and Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, Special Chief Secretary for IT, Industries and Commerce, who could not join in person but recorded a beautiful message encouraging us and motivating us to do this. I think this is a great initiative of FTCCI with its Industry Academia Connect, along with Talent Farm as an implementation partner. The idea is to bring industry problem statements, mentors, access to learning resources to students. And as students solve these problem statements, the curated profiles of the students is shared with potential employers. This will effectively create a win-win situation for students on one side to get great employability opportunities, and for industry to get great curated talent. So all in all, it's a win-win situation. Thank you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
I'm here in this FTCCI Talent Fund program, and this is one of the really very good and wonderful initiative, Talent Farm as well as FTCCI. This kind of industry connect along with the academics, and we have to bridge the gap that has been there for long, and definitely the way there's all these stakeholders are getting connected. I wish all these teams work together for a better tomorrow for Telangana and for India. Thank you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
Good afternoon. We are from Srinidhi Institute of Science and Technology. It was a great initiative set up. Through this, our colleges get a lot of exposure, and many of our startups, for our startups, it could be helpful.
This event helped us to network with a lot of different colleges, so which would be useful for our student startups to grow in the future.
We actually have a lot of prototypes in our college. Maybe with these industries coming into our college, it would help these prototypes set up to a next level. So yeah. Thank you for
Giving this opportunity.
thank you for giving us this opportunity, and looking forward.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
The Industry Academia initiative is one of the need of the hour, much most important initiative in enhancing the skill set, reducing the skill gap for the talent and the ecosystem at large, which also which also builds the entrepreneur mindset. Very very happy and delighted to be part of this ICT committee, and also the part of the event. I wish FTCCI Talent Farm and the ICT a very grand success for this future event ahead.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
I think this is a fantastic forum where both industry and colleges get to meet and talk about how do we work together? How do we collaborate well? Talentform.ai has given a platform where the students and the industry mentors can connect, and we bring that the solutions for the problems that industry is looking for, people that the industry is looking for, and also get the talent ready for the industry, because there's a usual complaint that the talent is not ready, and the talent says that the industry is not picking them up. So I think there's definitely this need of coming together, and I see this as a great initiative of meeting both the objectives. Thank you so much for inviting me again. All the best.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
We are marching towards the $10 trillion economy, and we have a large role to play. So I will not do the questions, but I will let them each speak their point of view. And the point is also about where do we get started. There are multiple initiatives. There is a lot of people coming together, wanting to commit their time, all the value add that they are ready to pour in. But then from each one, we would like to understand what is it that you would like to kind of pour in your views, and where should we get started and how do we get started?
There are a lot of points, and we've been discussing on this topic. I think this is one of the topics, like you said, 10 years or 20 years back also we were doing Academia Industry Connect, and we were talking about women empowerment and how do we bring them to forefront and things like that. Again, we are talking about it. I think this needs a mindset change as well. Like how we are talking about product mindset, this needs a mindset change big time in terms of how are we bringing up our kids, how are we bringing up our organization, how is faculty treating both girls and boys in the college. It goes everywhere. I think this needs a fundamental change of mindset from the start. How you start treating your girl versus boy, and we were talking about boys need A, B, C, D, you need car and all, and girls would ask for home toys and things like that, right? I think this, the mindset needs to change completely. And when it comes to industry style, and I'm not going to talk about all the points because there are a lot of points in my head running at this point in time, but the key things that probably we should look at is setting up a good ecosystem or the support system for women employees. Not looking at numbers saying, oh, we have crossed 30% in the diversity ratio in our organization, that's an achievement. I don't know why we call that as an achievement, because you should look at the talent pool. You should not look at the number and say, yes, there's a tick over here. So that's the second point. I am a single mother. I have a 2-year-old girl, and I totally understand the need of the support system at home, at work, and people recognizing that, you know, you need that time with your kid as well as you are committed to your work. So when you're at work, you're 100% at work. When you're home, you're 100% home. You need a very supportive staff, your supervisors, your peers, your reportees, and all. So that's why I said it needs a mindset change. I'll stop here and let's listen to other folks now.
Just to add, I think apart from, the usual tick boxes that are done in corporates, I've experienced this. I had number of leaders walking in, especially during the month of March, you know, when everyone wants to portray that they're the most ID'd company, if I should say, which counts inclusivity, diversity, and equity, and equality to a certain extent in terms of various aspects, but they start off with gender, right? It's very irritating to be on the other side where you hear the numbers. But I think while the bad news comes in data, the good news is always the efforts that also count with organizations and individuals who are trying to set up initiatives that could really help these numbers move up, and the initiatives that we all talk about hopefully help more people to come into the workforce and stay in the workforce, right? The problem is no more about coming into the workforce. It's actually staying back in the workforce, because we all know the attrition rates in terms of mid-careers that are happening with women at work forces, especially with COVID. I think COVID COVID with a hybrid work environment has actually given a lot of perks and flexibility that's never spoken of in corporates in general, the flexibility of ensuring you kind of work from home and work from anywhere in whichever part of the world, and can still manage your calendars, right? So I think that's really important for us to maybe look at as well, how you're, as allies, I think the most important thing I've realized while we were noticing the wall of fame on the outside, because the number of men that we saw there and literally no women, it's also in this room when you look at it, then I think I see most of you as allies for your own respective homes, your organizations, your teams that you're literally supporting, right? How many of you could go back and be a shoulder to lean on for your respective team member, for your organization, for picking up an initiative? It's very easy for a woman to pick up an initiative and say, hey, I'm trying to do something with respect to diversity. If you see, actually most of the diversity teams that are run in organizations and corporates are mostly run by women, especially right from cutting a cake at the desk to running organizational, institutional activities around inclusion and diversity are run by women, where a few of them will be sponsored by men. I think we're speaking about a few genders here, couple of genders here, if I should say so, right? But I think it's time that we see the other side, or the other gender, also picking up more initiatives that could help build spaces, build communities that could help get a dialogue and a discussion together. Otherwise, I don't think this will just be solved by 10 Sheetals, 10 Vaishalis, 10 Avnishas on the panel, right? It's got to be a community effort in how we build capacity as we go. I think with respect to startups, corporates, technology coming at the intersection of all of this, how do we solve this? I remember entrepreneurs back in those days, and back in those days could be just a decade back as well, just a year back as well, if I should say so. We used to hear a lot of people pitch conversations on pickle, papad, petticoats, especially for women entrepreneurs. That was the usual spectrum of sectors that they were looking at. But I remember, I think the last quarter, or I think just before the New Year's, we heard pitches of platforms, programs, and products. And I think this is the best time to see if you'd want to be an entrepreneur, especially as a woman. There are enough programs, and on the academia side as well, there's enough push that's coming in through. Maybe it's time that we reimagine these institutions and how we all perform as individuals as well.
I'll start by, we talked about all the T's since the morning, all the S. We had the RRR panel. This is by far the most diverse panel. Right? So, and we know what the state is today, right? Everybody knows the data, the numbers that we've been talking about and everything. But I want to start by the happy picture, right? Who's the supreme commander of our armed forces today? Right? Our Honorable President, Shrimati Draupadi Murmu. I come from an organization where my business unit is led by a woman. The top leadership is majorly women in my organization. We have a very strong focus on DEI, right? We have Karen, who's our Chief Equity and Innovation Officer, a CXO level position, right? Why I'm saying all that is that in product organizations today, there is a lot of focus on diversity. So this is a very good time to be a woman in tech or a woman in product. Last 4 or 5 years, our Honorable Prime Minister has put in a lot of focus on Nari Shakti. Now, that doesn't mean that everything goes away, what Rashi has alluded to or Vaishali was talking about. I'll give you an anecdote. Once taking an elevator in my office building, it so happened I was the only man in that elevator amongst the group of women. And that day was like, a realization for me, what does it feel to be sitting in a meeting room full of men, right? And especially, being very honest and transparent when some take pride in making off-color remarks and jokes. right? I mean, that respect has to be there in the work environment, that empathy has to be built in. Diversity is not just a gender diversity. Diversity is of diversity of thought, right? I mean, I don't want to generalize that all women think alike, all men think alike, but yes, there's a pattern. And when you have women on the table, there is a diversity of thought, right? So my message to all the women out there, this is a great time because a lot of companies are hiring for diversity. Go out there, right? We men have a lot to catch up on. We are not even 30%, 40% in the second occupation that the most women run, which is the household, right? So if we do our part, if we come to at least 50% and take that 50% responsibility of the households, right, that would go a long way in having women sustain their careers and reach the leadership positions in the organizations.
Absolutely, I think that's why we call ourselves super achievers.
Or I can maybe just quickly add, whenever I introduce how I am from AWS, usually while we were on these speaking engagements was, I used to have a slide which I couldn't today. I just realized, imagine a taxi and a candy along, right? And I think this is every parent's nightmare. I remember number of times while we were, and this is also coming in place in terms of how technology is playing these days. I was always told whenever I was playing in my respective lanes of the colony, do not get into a stranger's car, do not accept a candy, do not take water, do not even talk to them, everything, that's coming that way, saying do not, right? And imagine a company like Uber literally building a business model based on that, where we tell them where we live, we accept a candy, we accept their experiences, we accept their water, we tell them where we are going, all these things that are really coming in place. So much so that we don't call taxis anymore, we call them Uber, Ola, we don't call banks anymore, we call them Paytms, we call them, mostly not theaters anymore, but we call Netflix, Hotstar, Prime taking over. And if you've experienced any of these technologies or applications and products, you've experienced AWS. That's how it always came to me, that technology has built a lot of trust that we cannot see. And I think with what Mr. Rajesh has mentioned with Uber, you can't explain this to as if, explain it to me as if I'm 5 or your grandmother. You can't explain the details behind all of this, right? But it's great to build that trust that this person that you don't know will take you from point A to point B and will also maybe give you a bottle of water. Just be nice to him. The least that you could do is be nice to him and maybe do a scanner at the end because they only accept cash these days. Or do a digital payment, call, ensure you have a quick knowledge of your scanner and then your OTP and everything else, right? So imagine how much of trust is being built with platforms like this. And all of these don't really have gender. And I think that's really important, to the point of diversity in thought. There's so much safety aspect that really came in, and people look at it from a women perspective as well, and how the number of initiatives that are really coming in the number of initiatives are being taken by these corporates as well to ensure there's enough trust that's being built between the consumer and the rider is also important, right? So I know there's still a lot more to do there, but we'll only realize the lot more to do when we have more women in the decision-making rooms, more women in the boardrooms who are making these feature designs or use cases, right? I think it's important maybe we all speak up in this room as well. There's nothing called a stupid or a silly question. We are expected to maybe do silly answers, but not on your side. No, I think it's interesting, right? I've done this in 2016, and it's just one of those best experiences because you also got to fundraise for your own expedition. So as a part of the group called 2041, along with this person called Robert Swan, who's the first person to walk both the South and North Pole, the idea is to learn more about climate change and come back to your respective city or the state that you belong to and become an ambassador for climate change. The best part is how you discover and how everything can just happen in a fraction of a second. The number of times I think I watch, every time I'm literally on my lowest of the lows, I go back and watch that video, right? Where there's an iceberg falling in just on the boat that we were on, and it could have been, and I still remember my mom asking me if I had insurance while I was going there, right? So things like this can just really change the way on how the climate change is really not really spoken about. While the topic that we are on, I think the climate change and resource scarcity is not really being spoken about so much as we speak about technology and urbanization, right? So I think those topics also need some rooms and dialogues and discussions. I think that's where we wanted to build those communities. I came back and I was part of one of the teams that was doing Hyderabad Urban Makeover physical literacy days. We used to do Ragiri days and Happy Sundays towards the roads of ISB. If you know, the entire road was blocked so that we could do only physical activities and for families to come over and learn more about environment and what it's really doing to you as an individual, as an organization. I remember we did car-free Thursdays. And I think I had a board as well that I carried to Antarctica where I wanted to talk about the initiative where all the IT employees were really picking up public transport on Thursdays and not really picking up their car and their respective vehicle. So there are quite a lot of initiatives that were coming in through while we were in the PPP sector of the world, which is public-private partnerships. We worked across with Cyberabad Commissionerate, Sajjanar Garu and the team so that we could build this, right? So it's important to understand how you could I think once you're really interested about a cause, there are always platforms that will give you the position to go back and talk about it. If there are no platforms, I think it's your bare minimum responsibility to go back and create them. And that's what I believe organizations or initiatives like this will do as well. But I think it's an interesting experience that I had. Now that you asked me about Antarctica, I've also realized there's another train journey that I've taken called Jagrati Yatra. I'm not sure how many of you know about it. It's a train journey that's built, it's a train that's only built for entrepreneurs to go. Happens every December. 500 entrepreneurs aspiring, someone who's been there, done that, is on the train along with 50 other set of mentors. The idea is you go back and meet. You go to 12 places across India, which we call the Middle India, covering Bombay to Bombay again. We go to meet Mr. Narayan Murthy in Infosys. We go back to Anshu Gupta in Delhi, Barefoot College, where they make grandmothers engineers, in Rajasthan and Thalonia. We come back to Bombay, right? So we go to these 12 places. And imagine being on the train every day morning. You go to these role models, come back in the night, sit down with your respective cohort, which you're assigned to, live on the train for 15 days and come back. Trust me, it was a life-changing experience for me. I think those experiences are many and many in India because I've never experienced a tier 4 district. I've experienced a tier 3 district, tier 2 district because my grandmothers are from a particular village. I went back during summer and I came back. But tier 4 district where we still have women who use dry cloth, sand, dried leaves for their menstruation hygiene is something that's still existing in India. For me, that was a big shocker, right? So you will, to the question of, I think what Bharadwaj was asking, you don't have to, I think India, we have a lot of problems. We don't really have to ask for what's your problem or what's your latest problem, right? I think there are many and many problems as we go rural as well, not just urban. I think it's time that we maybe just, we don't have to romanticize the whole problem statement. I think it's time that we kind of build a business use case or understand how do we build a better solution across these problem statements. So for me, that was really a life-changing experience. And I hope whoever's inspired and aspiring entrepreneur, especially when you're a student, we've got enough platforms to do this. So,
fortunately, I'm blessed. I have parents who support me. I have about 24 years of experience now, and throughout my journey, they've been very supportive. So during the day, my mom becomes my daughter's mom, basically. She'll take care of her entire day. And in the evening, when I have a couple of hours, I am with her. So either it's my work or family. I am a very antisocial kind of person. So don't meet a lot of folks outside even on the weekend. So I'm able to manage, and knock on wood, it's all because of the support system I have. My supervisors, my peers, my office mates are very, very nice. And they all, I mean, we still have hybrid work culture. So I'm usually in office, but at least 3-4 days in a week I'm in office. And when I'm in office, it's like 10 hours in the office. So yeah, I'm able to manage. So far, so good. Probably when she gets older, I have to change my strategy a little bit. So I did change. I used to work probably 14-15 hours before she came into my life. And now it is 10 hours. And we'll see how it goes. Plus, I have a very good team, so I'm able to manage it well. I think it's just that you need that support. You need that ecosystem and that supports you. Yeah, totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. I think we are in a very good era of deep tech where all of us are always connected. And I think the deep tech, someone was saying, right, if I had an opportunity, I would have come to be born as a youth now. But I think this is the era when you have a lot of things that you can avail and benefit out of. So, yeah.
So, I want to just add another perspective to that. We're talking about women in tech. What about women in other vocations, in other sectors, right? We have maids coming in our houses for doing the dishes and the cleaning. Most of them women. I haven't seen any man come in and do the dishes so far. They have kids, they have families. I go to the Vijeta store, most of the staff is female. They have families, they have kids, right? You go to the malls, everywhere, you would see a much higher participation of females in workforce in these sectors, right? They are managing. I don't know how. I sometimes ask my maid, what about the kids? And then she says, yeah, they'll play there. And, someday she'll say that I want to take a day off because the kid is not well. So they also have this real problem. So we should not, I'm sorry to say, sit here and fantasize that all the problems are with us.
I think with that we will close the discussion, and thank you so much.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
Today's Industry and Media Connect and Education Academia Connect was a wonderful event organized by FTCCI, ICT and Talent Farm, and I was happy to be a part of it. This is going to help the students grow in their careers for sure. Thank you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
As part of the initiative Industry Academia Connect, we are looking forward to bridge the gap between academia and industry. And I think we are using a very innovative platform called Talent Farm. The idea is to basically bring all the use cases from the industry and enable students to work on those with best-in-class mentors from across the industry. We're looking forward to get started, 100 students to begin with, and we will be ramping this up across the state.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
Which is basically the platform that's powering this initiative of IAC driven by FTTCI. We are happy to be part of this program, and we are looking forward to working with all the colleges and corporates to enable the children to achieve their potential. Talent Farm will play the role of enabling them to their potential. Thank you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
This is a great event. Definitely, I think as some of the speakers were mentioned that it was always like we always start the initiatives and do the MOUs kind of a thing. But this is going to be the next step of what they were, and now we wanted to kind of take it into the next level. I see a lot of synergy that has been there within the academic industry and the governments as well, and Talent Firm driving this whole initiative. Pankaj and his team has done a tremendous of work, and definitely whatever I see, typically like Pankaj kind of take it very seriously and kind of takes to the next level. That's exactly what everybody is kind of looking for. So I wish Talent Firm and this whole academic and industry connect a big success, and we're all part of it. I'm a mentor already, kind of delivering this at some of the colleges, whatever the knowledge that I have from the industry, and I'm happy to kind of do it more, and wish everyone a great success. Thank you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
To LitFest 2024, where creative young minds and literary maestros delve into engaging conversations.
This LitFest 24 aims to tell the world about the power of literature. Literature is a form of art, and the art is something that can be perceived on the eyes of the beholder. The artist can mean a completely different thing. The reader can perceive it in a very different way altogether. Since it is an art, it beholds utmost power, and it has a lot of effect on the reader's minds. How one consumes their literary knowledge tells a lot about their character as well. So let's all come together and let's all acknowledge the power of literature in Voxen's LitFest 24.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
I think this literary festival is going to be a very important milestone is the journey of this great university, Voxen, because it actually is going to be the beginning of bringing a different set of minds to the campus. The literary mind, the reading mind, the author's perspective, which is a vast world outside, or perhaps shall we say, in parallel with the academic world. And when that literary world and the academic world meets, it's a creativity and a frisson which improves the campus vastly.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
I'm participating in the AI days in JNTU, conducting right now in the JNTU. It's a very crazy event. Learning a lot from the AI front of view. Currently, I'm working as the director of engineering in the Paytm, where I am handling the data part. All the data related stuff is something that I'm taking care of. And after coming to this conference, I got to meet a lot of people, the data veterans, the AI veterans into the industry, learning a lot of things over here. Overall, I would say a very really nice setup and a lot of learning on the front. Please do join us if you are here over the JNTU or in the Hyderabad. Thank you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
We are a digital trade finance platform building trade finance for the next 50 million MSMEs of India. And I'm here as part of the FinTech panel where we were discussing about the application of AI and ML in the financial services industry and FinTech industry. Firstly, I would like to congratulate the AI Days team, which has created this event. It's been an exceptionally good event. And I've seen a lot of enthusiasm here, a lot of students, because we are in the JNTU, which is the education hub of Hyderabad. So it really feels great to share my experience and share my knowledge with the enthusiastic crowd here. I wish AI Days all the very best, and I have really gained a lot of good knowledge and thoughts from my co-panelists, and also the fantastic questions which came up from the audience today. And I'm really thankful for providing this, for getting this opportunity from AI Days. All the best. Thank you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
I try to understand how AI can impact the society, and today I'm happy to be in this conference, AI for Society in Hyderabad. It's a fantastic opportunity for me. I'm here. I really enjoyed the conference, the way it is organized, and I try to contribute the best. Thank you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
I'm so glad that I'm here today. Looking to through the event here, which is AI Days for 2024. What a wonderful event with about 2,000 delegates that are participating across the board. A lot of students, a lot of startup companies, and also industry leaders that are come and joined us here. So glad to be part of the panel discussion, supporting the fintech, how AI is growing in the fintech. It's a great event. I encourage all of you to participate in the future events like this. Most importantly, I think connecting, understanding where AI takes India as a whole is important, and India journey towards that AI, we all can make a big difference coming together. Thanks.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
We have enough data across the world, and the compute power has increased. Not a breakthrough in terms of the compute power, but essentially raw increase in the fundamental computing power that's available and the data that's available. So now we are able to crunch all of this data, put all of these together, and now those same algorithms with neural networks was what, perhaps 90s or something like that, when neural network algorithms were coming in. I know, for example, Professor Kumar Ishwaran is here. He's been working on this. Chaitanya has been working on some of these things. There are other challenges as well. Can brute force approach, be relevant for India and all of that stuff. But before we get into those things, I would like to start with Surendra Garu. You're at Microsoft again, which means you're seeing what's happening in the business landscape and enterprise landscape, the challenges and other things. What do you see for India as both the opportunities and the challenges in terms of becoming the AI leader? Let's say if we want India to become the AI leader, what do you see as the potential challenges and opportunities?
You can do for me in the question, or we can say what I can do in here. I think that has to be a mental model or mental shift one has to start adopting. And especially for Indian context, how in Indian ecosystem, the Indian youth, we have the largest talent here, how they can really lead. When I actually put this in context of how it can be done, in any technology there are 4 parameters of success, okay? Or 4 parameters to really ponder upon. I think a lot of students here, we all heard about IQ. Generally in academia they are introduced as IQ. And as we grow from academia to professional, we get into a lot of EQ. How do you handle your emotional quotient in terms of conducting with each other? These are the 2 personal and personality aspects of it. Any technology has to become, and I have to adapt and I have to embrace it. There are 2 more parameters which are very, very fundamental and which generally not talked upon in a larger forum. One is the social quotient. Okay. In terms of the amount of population, amount of society, amount of communities which we have, what is the social relevance of any technology is the most important aspect of it. And when I was looking at the UPI, why UPI has become so relevant and so successful? Because it has elevated the social identity of every person of every Indian. That's a fundamental key difference to the success. So any AI technology which we wanted to implement, we want to represent, first it has to bring the social context, social quotient in every person and everyone who is attempting to do that. Once it helps me in terms of establishing my social identity, it increases my social awareness, it increases my social quotient, then I will be slowly start trusting that. Fourth aspect, once the social thing is established, it has to be very, very relevant to the way I live and the way I conduct myself. That is where the CQ comes into the picture. It is called cultural quotient. It has to be very much relevant. When I saw the demo of the IoT, it will be adopted here because it is basically talks to me and then responds to me the way I conduct myself, my life in the society. So I think the key challenges or opportunities for any company, any product, any AI revolution is to, while we establish the basis of the technology, we start basically making the social relevance and cultural importance. These are the two aspects, and that is where I saw one of the first introductions of data for me is when they introduced this language model for Tanmama story. That's my cultural question. That's why I relate to that. That's why it becomes so relevant for me. So those are the opportunities and those are the challenges one has to really consciously.
You're wearing multiple hats. You're the director at Meta, Facebook, you're dealing with data, emerging tech and stuff. But might I request you to put on the free software advocate hat while we talk about this. Surinder was talking about this, with these opportunities, there's a social opportunity, there's a cultural opportunity. For AI to be relevant to any of these things, we require lots of data to come in. Right? And we have spoken about the same thing now that the data storage is cheap, inexpensive, it's available. But I don't know if that's quite relevant to data that's produced or data that's required to build these open source models and stuff. Right? What are the potential challenges that you see in terms of building these data sets in the country? Now, India is quite diverse, from across the length and breadth of the country, you have lots of data that can be generated from, from agriculture, the stories, Sannamama Kadalu that Surinder was talking about, voice data sets. There are tons and tons of data sets that can be generated. But without, in some sense, protecting, what are your views on how do we protect our data, to build models that are relevant, that can help the society? I know there are no license per se, but your views on some of this so that we can build a better AI for the country. Thanks, Praveen, for your question, and thanks to Switcher for having me here at this event. It is truly an honor to have this opportunity to share some thoughts with all of you. Since you're asking me to answer the question with the free software or open source software hat on, perhaps I should start with that piece, which is what is Meta as a foreign tech company? What is Meta as a producer of proprietary software? What are we doing here at a free software conference? What many people don't know is that Meta is a very hardcore believer in free and open source software. And it has happened, Mark Zuckerberg was not very keen when he was building Facebook to pay for other people's cloud, or as Richard Stallman would call it, other people's computers. So he started an open hardware project called Open Compute. That was the first big project at Meta, which was an open source project. Today, and every year, we publish a state of open source report. So if you count the total number of projects at Meta, it is 1,200 open source projects that Meta has released. Separately, we are keeping a count on GitHub and on Hugging Face. We have released 650 open source or close to open source AI models, and we've also released 350 open data sets. So that is the extent of our open source portfolio today at Meta. And that's why we believe we are part of the same tent. Free software or open source software is a very powerful concept where you will see the same idea in the manifesto of the CPIM and the same idea in the manifesto of the BJP, and both of them will give separate ideological arguments for why open source is important for the country. So in the same movement, you will have large capitalist mega corporations, and in the same movement, you will have a small socialist cell as well. We're all part of the very same movement. So that's the first thing, that it is in a world where increasingly we feel divided, that you are different from me. Open source is still that very powerful big tent which brings us all together. But it is very connected to the question that Praveen is asking about privacy. So suppose you're using a proprietary software like WhatsApp, and as WhatsApp, a proprietary software company like Meta is saying, we are protecting your privacy and nobody can intercept your communication. The guarantee is being provided on the back of an open source project, which is Signal. And in the Meta white paper, we say very clearly, for the end-to-end encryption part, we have directly copied the Signal code because it was available under a liberal license, where you could put it even in a proprietary product. Then, more recently, what Meta has done is we have moved to make Facebook Messenger also end-to-end encrypted. But when we did that, we did one more thing. We made some additional contributions to open source. We released a project called Code Verify. So what does Code Verify do? From your browser itself, you can verify that the code running on your computer is exactly the same code running on somebody else's computer. So that there is no targeted backdoor that Meta has put into your software to spy on you. So how to verify that there is no targeted backdoor? Only way to verify this is to use this project, one of the ways, and this project Meta has released as an open source project called Code Verify. So open source and privacy are very, very closely connected. If you don't have open source, then usually you cannot be 100% sure that you have privacy. So that is a very important piece. But what is the situation in India? India has a new law enacted in the middle of last year. It's called the DPDP, Digital Personal Data Protection Act. They have tried to do what Professor Raina said. What engineers do, they try to secure a trade-off. The trade-off is between three broad objectives. First objective is protecting individual rights of citizens. Second is protecting innovation. And the third is to protect the ability of the government to govern its citizens. So that was the three objectives that the policymakers had. So very strangely they say, if you voluntarily put your personal data into the public domain, then anybody can use it for any purpose. It is not even covered under the Act. So voluntarily, if you put data in the public domain, it is not covered under the Act. But if it is not voluntarily put into the public domain, then you need consent. So at least in India, that's quite a firm basis to protect the rights of citizens. And all corporations, big or small, hopefully will comply with the obligation under the law. So, I will end off by connecting this back to one of our projects at Meta. The project is called Llama 2. It is a near open source. There are some big distinctions from the standard open source licenses, which people will complain about, and they should complain about. But the advantage of using Llama, I'll first start with the advantage for us. When we released it, we had released the code in Python. It was not very fast. One developer called Andre Karpathy over a weekend we implemented the same code in C, became 4 times faster than us, and we ourselves took this C implementation back into our servers. Use obviously, free software is good for the capitalists, that much is clear. But the more important thing is, once you made it so small and you could run it on small devices like a Raspberry Pi or a Pixel or even your laptop, then you can disconnect from the internet. And you can ask Llama any question. And now there is a whole series of small models like this, which are offline models, that completely protect your privacy. Nobody will ever know what question you had asked the model. Because sometimes regulators in their enthusiasm will go too far. For example, the FTC in the US at one point thought that every single prompt used against OpenAI could be an attack. So they asked OpenAI to submit a database of all prompts to the FTC. And that would be a horrifying thing if you had asked some embarrassing question to OpenAI. So this is what is important, that there are multiple rights. These rights are often in conflict with each other. For example, we have a right to information. That right is in conflict with the right to privacy. And we have to be part of the policymaking process so that our lawmakers make laws which solve this double optimization or double maximization problem. I think it's a great opportunity for startups as well, right? To be able to reply to things. I know there's a huge data problem. We'll get to that. How do you see this as an opportunity for startups? You don't need to build your own models right now. One can, but as Sunil was talking about, we have lots of open source models available right now. Data is a problem. We'll get to that. Can leverage this thing. How do you see how can this ecosystem be nurtured in that sense, and especially in Hyderabad, Telangana? Right? If you want to, let's say, become the AI capital, what are the potential pitfalls, challenges, opportunities that you see with models also being available, the open source models being available? How do you see this up? The startups, I'm sure some of these people would want to take this opportunity and build something out of it as well.
A lot of people know about PHub, but let me spend a couple of minutes more about PHub. PHub is the world's largest innovation hub. Not sure how many people know about it. Second thing is, I don't know if you've been to that place, you would find that there are a couple of other entities also in and around. One is eWorks, and there is another tower that is coming up behind called Image Towers. So, PHub itself has got about 450 plus startups, right, resident in the building. And eWorks, that is next door, is the India's largest prototyping center, right? And then Image Towers that is coming up right behind is going to be one of the world's largest AR, VR, VFX gaming solutions setup, right? Just coming to your point, Praveen, about what are we doing here, making this place Hyderabad unique model. Now, leave that aside, let me continue the story that, the professor was talking about. So, he spoke about the untold story of UPI. There is a bit more about the untold story about UPI. The UPI stack that was built had a significant contribution from startups, right? So the sourcing of a lot of, applications happened from startups. There's also another application, I don't know how many people remember, I don't think we can forget, called, COVID application. You guys remember COVID? Right, so nobody can forget COVID application. Very interesting thing about what we have done to the world. I've seen people traveling from the US coming to India carrying the COVID certificate. Did any one of us carry COVID certificates? No, right? I hope I heard that. No, right? So the point is, if you lose a certificate in the US, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get the certificate. And we never lost any of the certificates unless somebody had a problem. So this was another technology export that, along with startups, India did, to the world. In fact, the other point about Hyderabad and Telangana, again, because you brought up that point, Hyderabad is the pharma capital of India. Hyderabad is the pharma or rather vaccine capital of the world. So, I mean, if you look at sector by sector, there are so many sectors where there is one transformation is happening, and Hyderabad has been contributing both to India and to the world. In fact, in that process, we have attracted Microsoft and Meta, and I'm sure that's a long list, right? So, as of now, 25 to 30% of foreign companies that want to come to India are actually coming to Hyderabad. And this is something that I am not saying it is national support. I'm sure you can go and check it out. So where I'm coming from, the opportunities exist. You don't have to look outside, beyond, say, India. I'm not saying you have to drop your plans if you have any, but there are opportunities right here. There are support systems that are available. I know there was this question about, it is just one GitHub or, one of those entities, GitHub, etc. Both the governments as well as the institutions like ours are trying to see how we can replicate this model across different segments or sectors. For example, in colleges, many of you are probably still studying in colleges. Some of the colleges have already taken that responsibility to build innovation hubs within your colleges. And some of them have approached us, some of you have already the talent required, infrastructure required. All that might be required is to really go on and build on those. Now, when it comes to technology challenges or issues, I think both my eminent panelists have actually talked about data. In fact, I was in Delhi last week attending a seminar or a symposium on healthcare. The biggest challenge in India, and this is a challenge for all of you youngsters who want to pick the problems to solve, right, is really to look at healthcare. So, and again, there is lack of data. We were just chatting a little while earlier. There is lack of coherent data. Of course, data is available, but it is not available publicly. If a startup working in healthcare domain wants data about clinical data, or they want data about patients, you have to approach 100 different hospitals or clinics to get validated data. So that's a challenge. So one is, how do you build applications that addresses that? Just to let you know, the government of India and of course local government is actually building something called UHI. So on similar lines to UPI, Unified Healthcare Infrastructure, and that is going to be equally massive. It is being touted to be much bigger than UPI, where you unify, stratify data for patients. Patients are nothing but people like us, who go to the hospitals. So that is going to be an opportunity. I would request all the youngsters to watch out for, because if somebody is in Nagar Karnool or say Adilabad, where do they rush if they have a critical issue? Everybody comes to Hyderabad. How do you make the tertiary care, or rather the primary care? Tertiary care is what we have offering here, which is like the Apollo hospitals, etc. The primary care facilities. How can technology, the same AI, which actually solved one of the problems that was demonstrated, can take up a challenge around healthcare? It's one opportunity that I really see that is in front of us. So the other point is that when we come to the entities like we have, we have people from 16 years to 62 years as the founders range. So age no bar. Really, it is about the idea. It is about the problem that you want to solve and the technology that you want to pick and adopt. These are the ones that exist in front of us. You just need to walk in and build on it, and we provide a lot of support from ideation stage till you are able to raise funds. So one of the motto we carry is, we want to create job creators rather than job seekers. I'm sure all of us, each one of us, innately want that to be the case. So there is tremendous opportunity. Of course, there are challenges, but very confident if we have delivered UPI and COVID, I'm sure UHI and many more would follow. So, I can only wish good luck
You've been in this, entrepreneurial ecosystem space for quite some time now, and you've seen a lot of people come in, try to put up their startups, and you've been with incubators. You're an angel investor yourself, right? What is the message that you would perhaps give? Because you've seen a lot of people come and try, and some succeed, some perhaps fail, right? What is it that you see? What is the message that you would want to give if somebody wants to get into this AI space? It's quite nascent now, let's say the level. It's still a level playing field for now. What is the message that you would give to them from your experience working with different startups?
What is AI use cases for different societal use cases, right? And I kept noticing the first 10 were always US case cases, UK case cases, or in a few cases, somewhere in Australia. The Indian cases were like the 38th or 40th number. I started counting after the third or fourth search. So any use case that we develop here will have to be for that kind of a database and with a diverse database. Let me take a simple example. The government is developing something for languages in India, right? One of the best use cases somebody suggested was that we can use it for translating government documents, government information into easily accessible to women entrepreneurs and any other entrepreneurs across the board, right? So you can access, let's take for an example, agripreneur, right? If the agripreneur has information that they require for doing their business, in Telugu, that data will not be available easily. That information is not available easily simply because he has typed in the data, search through 10 different websites. Half of them will not be, my Telugu is not that great, but even I can make out that that translation is little off. And you have such, if the simple language translation can be made so that the person in the last mile of India can get that, understand the skill and apply for that skill. That's the best use case to start with now, right? Simple things like the Right to Information Act. Why should there be one person sitting somewhere in some office making that decision? There is in fact a startup which is working on that anywhere in India you can put in the information and the AI tool answers the question. You don't have an AI officer having to answer the question. Believe me, most of the time the AI officer has got many other things to do and he's not interested in replying to that, the RTI officer. So let there be an AI tool that's building that. Simple things like this if you can build and execute it. The UPIs and UHIs will have the big technicians doing it, but let's have some startups build legal, agri, health, education. Taking off from what Sujit said, there is telemedicine that's being talked about, right? One of the reasons it's not working is because there is enough data around women health. And most of the times the women health which is the last priority in the family. So, the data sets around that is not available. One of the entrepreneurs that I'm working with is trying to develop data for women around menstrual health, right? And that, she's developing data, she's not talking about building an AI on top of it. Right now, she's just developing the data. Can we, with different, sorry to disappoint the men, not all women are the same. We have different health problems and different issues, and different genetic compositions lead to different issues. So, if a person is suffering from a certain type of disease in Telangana, the same disease will not occur in Nagaland. Can we therefore have the data for each place? And that's something that a startup is working on. Can you build the data sets? Indian data sets will be very different from foreign data sets. And please, if you can have startups which are giving data, there's money to be made there too. Because Meta and Google are not really sharing data with us.
I hope nobody minds. We are going to create these data sets. In fact, this data set is going to become open source. Right? We are just working on a licensing model to create and release this. I was talking about, some sort of attribution should go back to people who have contributed to this, right? And this was not built by one company. This was not built by a few engineers. This was built by tens of thousands of people coming in together to contribute data sets. In fact, in the next few months, this is the focus of Swecha. We are going to be releasing a lot of data sets from agriculture to healthcare to all of this stuff. But I'll come back to this because there is a lot more question about data. For example, all of you are mentioning this. If I'm a hospital, why should I share my data? What am I getting out of it? But we'll come back to this. We'll come back to this in a bit. But I'll go to Raj. Raj, as a CTO of one of these very few firms, it is that I know of, which are really working on AI ML projects, product services. Can you give us an example, or have you seen projects where AI is being used to solve societal problems, where AI not just Soras and the ChatGPTs, but something that can directly solve a social problem? Have you experienced anything like that? Any projects like that would you like to share with us now?
One thing I want to say is, social problems are everywhere. So we have one customer in the US. What they do is they work in providing jobs for the low healthcare jobs. So these jobs are mostly from Mexicans or the blacks or low poor, right? They basically take up the jobs, cleaners, janitors, things like that. Right? So what they said is, this company does a job screening for all the employees for healthcare companies to hire such workers. The problem here is when you plan these interviews, so the guy is so poor, he doesn't know how to come to your office, he doesn't have commute, he cannot come at the right time. And when he comes, the interviewer will not be there. So it's a big challenge to make sure that the interviewer and interviewer are both present when the interview has to take place. It's a real societal problem, right, in Philadelphia and other regions. So what we said is, we can give an opportunity where they can do the interview at home, right? They will go to a web, there will be questions and they'll answer. These answers are not like ABCD, right? They are like interpreting how somebody thinks through. So somebody says that, what will you do if you find a difficult patient? So there are different ways, right? I'll talk to them, or I'll ask my manager, I'll talk to my peers. There are so many ways you can judge on how a person reacts to a problem. So what we have done for this particular stuff is, we have from the interviewer the list of 10, 15 points that somebody can say when this kind of question is asked. What we simply did is, we created a recording. The user simply records his response for that. We simply do a semantic matching, thanks to the tools we have, and we tell which of them really match, and we get the information back to the interviewer. So the interview process is done quickly. So what I believe is, wherever technology can help the poor to make a difference, it will really help. One final thing I really want to say is, when I see all these LLM, the way I see them is, there are different small tools. Some tools can convert voice to text. Some tool can translate text to another language. Some tool knows how to get information from documents. Some other knows how to get data from SQL. The beautiful part is unlike, see, everybody uses chatbot now. Chatbot was like 10 years back also. I had a lot of challenges with chatbot because never understand the intent of the person. So those chatbots used to be, you go to the bank, select one for savings bank, select two for checking account. It is like your mobile phone only. Why? Because we don't understand how to interpret that. But now, thanks to ChatGPT, whatever you ask a question, it understands your intent. And based on it, knows what to do. And of course, we do a lot of work behind the scenes to train the model so that all scenarios, all prompts it works. So I encourage all the youngsters here to basically use all these tools to solve different problems. When you have this set of 10 or 15 ways to solve a problem, like Praveen, like you said, any problem that we have, any challenge we have, we can think about how to bring all these tools together to solve a problem. Thank you.
It's not that we don't have the data. Data is there, but in different silos. For example, hospitals, let's take one of those big corporate hospitals, but they have lots of EMR data already available. But they are in silos. Everybody has holds their own thing. And in fact, Raj was also mentioning a little bit earlier, people have their own 5G deployments right now. There's a lot of data that's being carried, but inside a silo. In edge cloud deployment, where the data is in a silo, right? What do you think? How do you think we can actually, break these silos? And I know there's a policy aspect to it, right? But what can be done? What could perhaps be an incentive for, let's say hospitals to begin with, right? To start saving some of this data, because I know that there's a lot of potential positive outcomes that can come out of that. From early detection of cancers to all of this stuff. Somebody, I think you can get different perspectives on the same thing. Who would like to go first? Yeah.
Hyderabad has the highest number of research institutes after Delhi. Delhi is mostly administrative, but Hyderabad has the highest number of research institutes. These are central government, these are state government research institutes. And they have a huge amount of data sitting with them. So let's take an example of hospital data that we talked about. There is an organization called CCMB. right? Center for Molecular Biology. They have been trying to collect disease-related data and other kind of data. They've been trying to collect it. One thing, if we can just have a policy, a way of getting that data to them, they can then democratize that data. So there's one person who is in charge of all the data for medical. Then we can, so the way NCPI was created, can we have the central research institute which have the capability of managing the data, which understand use case of data, because data is not just about having a data, it's understanding how it can be used and how that can impact ethical, non-ethical, all of that consideration. But if we can have a central agency which is using it, and the people, scientists who understand how the data can be used and received, then those can become the basis of having all the data. And make it mandatory to share the data. If the banks have to share my financial data, somebody can as well share my health data. So everybody is possible. So and data can be, in a way, not be very personal, but you can at least have the data in terms of, let's say, a female so age has this is the genetic makeup. You don't have to have my name and my phone number attached. So that can be sent out. I think that could start working there.
The hospitals or clinics as the custodians have a fiduciary responsibility to hold the data. They do not have the authority on it because we give the consent to them to, for the data storage and processing, etc. I think, I'm sure it's not something what I'm saying is new. They understand it. I think so that's where the policy needs to come in to help everybody come on to the same page so that the data sharing starts happening. It is not monetized but anonymized, what she was talking about, so that everybody starts using it the way it was done in UPI. I think that is something that is already happening. I'm sure the professor would cover that at some point. That's the way forward.
The data is ours and ours, but are they actually really acting as field or custodians, or they hospitals like to believe that they are holding the data? And what is there some policy on this? How do you see this?
So Meta has released an open source model called Massively Multilingual Speech, and the model can ID 4,000 languages, and it can do speech to text for 1,100 languages. So what was the data set to do that? Because when you start talking about 1,100 languages, many of the languages are resource poor languages. That means there is no digital corpora to achieve. What is the example of resource high language? It is French. So thanks to the Canadian government, every single government document in Canada mandatorily had to be translated from English to French by very high quality translators and made publicly available. So the first language where we had very high fidelity between between the two languages of translation was English and French. So, but then there is the other end of the problem statement, which is very low resource languages. So for these 1,100 languages, for most languages, the only text that was available was the Bible. And they got a human to read the Bible, and then they trained the model on that single recording. Yeah? And it made reasonably good speech-to-text software. High error rate, obviously, because there is no corpora, but even 60%, 70% accuracy is a good job for the first cut. So, let's take another example. There is a non-profit in Bangalore called Agami. They have a project called Open Nyai. They have created a chatbot for domestic violence so that women can ask questions about legal remedies. If you look at the question answer pair that they had used to create the RAG pipeline before the model, it's only 300 questions and answers. And behind it, they're using some generic language model to make it into sentences and to respond to the context you're asking and so on. So again, you want to make a very powerful project, doesn't take so much data. It's only 300 question answer pairs, you will arrive at the project. So there is a lot of work for us to do in India, which doesn't need to wait at all for data. We just need to be very clear, what is the performance we are interested in, what is the application we are interested in, and then we can quickly move to all of that. And I wanted to break the seriousness a little bit here. I think everybody is talking about very serious use cases of AI. I wanted to share two use cases which I think are useful for us. Munshi Premchand's stories are now in the public domain. They're free of copyright. So it is possible to have the story translated using a variety of open source AI systems or even proprietary to any other language, maybe Kannada, and then a Kannadiga farmer or a Kannadiga person who is illiterate can hear Dr. Rajkumar, his favorite film star, read Munshi Premchand's story to him and he can enjoy literature. So that's one application which we should all be very excited about, provided the children of Dr. Rajkumar allow us to use the personality rights of Dr. Rajkumar for that application. And then the other story or the question that I keep asking everybody is, what percentage of Indian homes do you think own a personalized piece of art? So suppose in the good old days, a king wanted a portrait of himself painted. Only kings and queens had that kind of art in their homes. You could potentially go to a cyber cafe if the cyber cafe owner is savvy, and they could use a model to render your grandmother or grandfather's photo in the style of Raja Ravi Varma or Amrita Sher Gill, and you can print it and put it in your house for about 100 rupees. This technology chain is already available to us. And imagine the profound way, because even if we estimate that 10% of Indian homes don't have this art, I suspect it is much more. My suspicion is it's much more. That 10% is hundreds of millions of people, and this will be a profound contribution to the quality of their lives, which is not serious, like medicine and many other serious topics that we're also talking here, because I believe the fun part of AI is going to be very exciting, and that part also should be open.
I want to add something funny here. Right? My mother is almost 88 years old, so she can go and buy sarees, but she buys for all the others and all sarees and all everywhere. So she started looking at this video things, WhatsApp and all, where people show, there's a shop owner, he keeps on showing the sarees and all, she'll be watching them, all those things. So I was thinking something like this, right? So UPI, for example, has made it so easy for anybody to buy from anywhere, right? So now so many people have been able to start from the house selling sarees, selling things and all. Obviously, AI can, what you said can be applicable. My mom can probably see the saree and see how the saree looks on her, how it looks on the person she's trying to buy, right?
Why people hesitate to share, and why whatever available data we can train the model and be successful. I think that the underlying question, underlying theme is the quality of the data. That is the most important, because of just with 300 question and answers, a relatively good model can be built. Now, the fundamental thing is quality of data, but in order to get the quality of the data from any person, any organization, or even from, like, somebody asks my data, I want clarity of usage. That's the main premise. If I know why that data which I am sharing is going to be used, how it will be used, clarity of usage, where it will be deployed. One of the important aspects is the policy always kind of trails behind the innovation. Okay. And today, if we go to any application, the main, once you sign up, the main disclaimer says that, are you ready to share your data? It might be used somewhere in some context. Another thing, there is no clarity in terms of how that will be used. That is the reason which I will be very much hesitant to share any of the data. So the first aspect in terms of policy making is to bring the clarity of usage. Once the clarity of usage has been stated, even though there is not a strict legal law which has been established, people will be willing to trust the system because there is a usage which is being already stated there. So quality data and clarity on the usage are the fundamental two aspects which we need to really empower everybody, and that is one of the fundamental challenges in order to really make the AI for everyone. Okay, and that is going to be the one of the first challenges, and that's where the technologists, academia, and the students need to have a platform to interact. And one of the reasons behind the slowness of growth or slowness in terms of adoption is the mentorship. When I interact with students as a part of my social responsibility to raise awareness on AI with a lot of students, what I feel is the environment where somebody can really ask any question without any reservation, okay, and then seek answers for that in a very secure way. That is missing. That's where we need to have a platform of mentorship without hesitation to create awareness of how the data will be used, where it is used, what will be deployed. And one of the only forum that can enable this is the open source forum. Okay. Because open source doesn't promise any employment. But one thing open source promises is the deployment. That's the fundamental importance of open source. Once you promise what you're going to deploy, then people will trust you and then people will be ready to share the information.
Absolutely. In fact, all of this stuff that we're doing is proof of that, right? To the fun part, like the Chandamama Kadalu, it's not the equivalent of the Munshi Premchand stories, but these are stories that we all grew up in. Surendra was saying the same thing. There's a huge cultural connect to all of this. It's a fun way that we had, in 6 hours, 10,000 students proofread around 40,000 stories that then fed into this small language model. Even the voice collection corpus activity was a fun part, right? No, yes, sure. There are going to be a lot of fun projects, but I'll have to, go back to serious questions again. I have two questions for all of them, and probably relevant to all of us over here. Two questions for each of you. Same question, different perspectives. I know we are at the fag end of this discussion. First question is, in your opinion, what should happen, what should we do to ensure that we are the AI capital of the world? Okay. And one message to all of us over here. Everybody over here for the AI days, so I'm guessing everybody is here because they want to learn and become successful in AI. Right? So what's one message that you want all of us to take away, and one key thing that you think should happen, or one thing for us to become the AI capital, whichever way you want to go? Okay, we'll start with Surendra. AI days gives me a kind of impression we are just few days away from the elections as well. Okay, so this request, if we wanted to become AI capital of the world, AI capital of leaders in the world, information is out there available. So go and use the best intuitive way of using AI. Understand your constituency, understand your leaders, understand your representatives, blog about them, share your tweets on them, and then make that as the most relevant topic, because the AI adoption is all about the relevance and the context. If we approach any problem with the relevance and the context, I think it will be the first starting step to be called as leader in that space. So my request or my message is, just few days away, we're going to elect new leaders to use the AI to the best ability and share your story, how you use AI to really understand the problems of your constituency and the representation of the leaders, what they are promising, are they relevant or they context based.
I think that would help you pick it off well. It doesn't matter whether you are an entrepreneur, founder, or a student, or somebody who's looking for a great job opportunity. I think what you need to do is where you want to go and what you really want to achieve is what you need to keep in mind, especially for entrepreneurs or would-be. Try and identify the problem and solve it. For AI capital, in fact, I'm sure we are all aware that we are now $4 trillion economy. World is coming to India for market access. So if we can solve for data issues, the world will come for data as well. Just to let you know, in fact, US has got roughly about 30 foundational models, is what I read somewhere. India has got none. I think small countries like Israel or some of these, I'm not talking about China, have got probably 2 or 3 big large language models, foundational models. So there's a huge opportunity for us to build on, and of course we have got 2 great organizations that are offering open source capabilities as well. So these are the areas to look into for to respond to those.
See, the IT guys never understand business, no? The same way AI guys never understand customers or society. So first thing I would say is, okay, we are in colleges, schools, we learn algorithms, we learn data structures, right? We get a job, at least we know how to use the tools, how to solve. So at least in the initial days we learn how problems are being solved, right? How to change the hairstyle of a person, how to change the dress of a person, how to write a nice article, right? My daughter does all her BB assignments using ChatGPT, right? So I'm worried about that also. So my thought process is, we need to go into business or go into society to understand what the challenges are. I think it is rightly said in the morning call by professor. So we need to understand where technology can make a difference, right? There are many technologies that have to come through. I see GenAI is just one of them. I was just talking to Praveen earlier. Even big enterprises, like when we want to work with ports or airlines, they also have these big challenges. They don't have the reliable network bandwidth to use technology in ports like sensors and cameras and all. They can't. So what is happening now with new technologies like private 5G, where they have issued a bandwidth. So what I'm saying is, when technologies, players, everybody has to come and create an environment where a business problem can be solved. So my earnest request to all the people is, maybe you should go and work with companies, say that you want to work on business kind of problems using AI. So get familiarized with it. So when different solutions, different problem comes, at least we know how to approach. Thank you.
I agree with you when I say when you said that people don't know where to look for problems. They seem to have solutions first, and they don't have. Then they, half the time they come to us saying, "I have a fantastic product, no market, no funding." So my simple submission is, the solution is fantastic only if there is a market. Now coming to that, the one thing that I think India can do for AI, for any data set or any modeling, any IT that we can do, is how can we model it for the last person? Whether it is, look at agri supply chain, right? We've not even thought, if you look at the way the world is looking at agri with AI, you combine the two, the things that you get is precision farming, you get things like commodity price management and things like that. In India, right now, the farmer is not, with 1 acre of land, is not really worried about how much commodity should I produce, at what price should I produce so that I can sell it. Because he's seen his neighbor, he's putting tomatoes, I'll also put tomatoes. Because last year he sold well, I'll also sell it this year well. But can you then have models which can, the tomato that guy is producing, where is it going? 40% of Indian food is wasted. The production that we do is wasted. Can we build models for post-harvest? Everybody is building models for pre-harvest. Can we build models for post-harvest? Where should the cold chain be? We can have mobile cold chain storages, but where should they be when the harvest happens? Right? That's one use case. Taking another use case, let's look at traffic data. One of the biggest problems in most cities in India is traffic. And please somebody find a solution where there are no U-turns. My everyday morning commute is, how do I find a road to go where there is no new U-turn today? So the same traffic management data that we have can solve for ambulances, which is the best route for the ambulances to take. The same data can be used for preventing accidents, predicting accidents and preventing that. So the same data can be used for lots of small things which can then be impacted in smaller towns, smaller villages and things like that. Think of solutions that can be like UPI, which is mass, which is scalable, which is everywhere to the last person it can go to. You build models in India for that. You have best case scenarios here. then it can be deployed anywhere in the world. So that's my submission for this.
I think it is solved. Maybe Bangalore traffic is an NP hard problem. I don't think anybody can ever, solve that. Right? Anybody from Bangalore? No. Okay, there are some people. Oh, I'm sure it's an NP hard. I think for me it's an NP hard problem.
Shall I? Okay, so I'll come at this. I think the other panelists have covered the question rather comprehensively, so I'll take a slightly different approach. I think some of us here are part of what we call the free software or open source software movement. It's a community of people that use or build free and open source software. But that is just one of the many openness movements. There are many other openness movements. And the problem with AI, exactly as we had during the inaugural ceremony, is that it's a dual-use technology. It comes with some risks. Just like electricity. Electricity, even today, comes with very significant risks, but also very, very useful technology for us as the human species. So, whenever anybody is selling you some technology, they will make some claims about the risk. It is risky this way, or it is risky that way. But how can you believe those claims? The only way you can believe the claim is if it follows what is called an open science paradigm. That means the software should be open source, the training data set should be available under open data license, the full documentation of what you have done should be published under an open access scholarly paper. And that is why I would slightly resist this point that India has no foundational models. Because many of these foundational models, they are even if they are proprietary models, they are released alongside with a paper which will explain the model. You should just go and look at the names of the authors in those papers. You will see many, many Indians. So India as a country may not have built models, but Indians have definitely built some of these key foundational models, including Llama 2. We have Indian authors building them. So what should you do to be part of this open science movement? Because that is the critical moment if we want to solve the data problem. According to DST, Department of Science and Technology, and Department of Biotechnology, they have an open access policy. That means every year they give $0.85 billion to Indian researchers as grants. But the expectation is, once you do the research should be published under open access license. That is the expectation. All we can as citizens say to these professors, please also release the data set. So that in the tradition of replicability of science, some other scientists can also repeat the process and check whether your scientific claims are correct. If there is a culture of releasing data sets in India by state governments, by scientists, then these data sets will be available for us to do other things. There will be a culture of open data sets being broadly available. So I encourage each one of you, because this $0.85 billion of research is your money. The intellectual property that has been created by that is licensed to you mandatorily by government policy. You own that, you're a custodian of that IP, push that IP in a further open direction, which is going to help all of us secure this leading position on AI technology.
Since you brought it up, I think it's a pet peeve of ours, but let's take this as a challenge. Open access journals, the Elseviers and the Stringers of the world charge thousands of dollars just to publish one piece of paper. Per page is I think approximately $100 or beyond for any open access journal. The problem is there needs to be scopus indexing and all of that stuff. Can we today, take a stance, say that, we are going to come up with our own open access journal, not relying on the Elseviers and the Stringers of the world, but to also, at some point get into scopus as well, because we can't start with a scopus index journal.
I mean, we may not be obsessed with journals, at least for some domains like AI.
Scopus is the problem.
Because some of the best papers in AI are not in journals.
They are outside conferences. It is something that I think we should go for the next 1 year.
Yes.
If we can actually come up with our own peer-reviewed conference, proceedings, which are open access, and that is a huge thing, because even if you are the author right now, you can't even go and look at your own paper. That is something that we should definitely work towards. Open science, open source software. If you want India to become the AI capital without any of this stuff, it's absolutely impossible. Let's work together on that. So it's an open call to everybody over here. Let's work together. Create that open access system, open access conference. Alright, so we have come to the end of it. I have a small message to give to all of you as well. While we're talking about AI, societal serious topics, as Sunil said, I have a slightly more fun thing to say. How do I make AI the us as the AI capital? Is first of all by letting the word go out. AI days, AI for society. My request is how many of you are on LinkedIn over here? So we should perhaps do this. Can we tag hashtag AI days? What do we do? Maybe we'll just go back to the previous session. There was a UPI story, right? It had brought out different emotions in all of us. Some of you felt proud, some of you felt, oh, this is good, inspired, whatever it is. Maybe we can do this. I watched, put the link to the story. At AI days, hashtag AI days. All of us, I see more than 1,000, 1,500 people in the auditorium. All of us together, can make a big bang, right? Put out, post on LinkedIn. Say you watch this story. Hashtag AI days 2024. Put out the emotion, whatever you have felt, okay? And then nominate 3 of your friends, each of us. I know this goes back to that, ice bucket challenge, but maybe, sorry, we're not doing this on Facebook any longer. But we'll perhaps do this on LinkedIn. Okay. Just because Surendra is sitting closer to me, right? We'll do this on LinkedIn maybe. Okay. Why don't we do that? Hashtag AI days. There's a good photo booth outside. You can take a photo over there, post it on your LinkedIn. Bhavneet was saying in the morning, you don't feel shame to ask for appreciation, promotion. I think we should appreciate all of us. This is a huge thing. I see a lot of energetic faces over here. Why don't we do that? Take a photo over there or something. Put it on LinkedIn. Say that you watch this at hashtag AI days. Sahiti will kill me if I don't give the correct hashtag, which is I'm not saying it out. Sahiti, AI days. Hashtag. See, Naveen is already ready to kill me. Hashtag AI for society. Please also hashtag AI days. I think this is one way. These sort of conferences will actually allow us to become the AI capital. I don't think there is ever another conference like this where lots of people, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Google, everybody come and talk about all of these things. We have the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We have people who are really working on AI projects, and we have the open source community, which is creating all of these things. So, they're already bored of looking at my face. So, what I will do is, I'll thank all of you. Thank you.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.
How the AI is currently changing, or how do I foresee how it's gonna change the landscape in the IT industry for sure. Right? What I foresee from the current trends right now, it's massively gonna impact the day-to-day life. Be it in any domain. I'm not going in specific to the fintech to start with, but be it in any domain, the generical problems gonna get impacted and gonna solved very easily going forward. And I think we are getting the flavors now. Everybody is aware of how the chat GPTs, the Soras, and all those things are working out. It's a mixed flavor. People are excited about it. There are people who are scared about it. But I do believe, I think it's a more of gonna be exciting journey going forward, because the help that the AI brings you to your day-to-day work is enormous. Like the task that you were performing till now, maybe let's say in few hours, with the help of an assistant, which is trained in a specific domain or for a specific task, can actually help you deliver quite fast, like 10x or 20x, right? So it's definitely gonna do a lot of additions into our life. and specifically to the fintech world, right? Where I'm currently working on, and we are seeing the wave of the fintech, at least in the Indian economy, right? It's gonna help a lot, specifically for the areas where ease of solutioning or ease of the payments is gonna happen. A more robustness into the payments, the more openness into the payments kind of scenarios will happen. It will open up a lot of portals for us to have a niche products from the payment sites, from the fintech sites, that will actually get into the day-to-day life of each one of us, and it's gonna have an impact, maybe doing a half of the work for us without taking a lot of help from us. So it's gonna positively impact our life for sure. That's my take on the AI in the coming years.
How AI is impacting today, as in our this generation, I feel it is immensely affecting us. We know or we do not know. For example, I can give you a certain scenario in the current financial world, how it's going on. But you can think of the when the customer getting targeted, you may be getting a call, maybe from phone, maybe through emails notifications, or maybe from app notifications. So starting from the targeting a customer to acquisition of that customer, to bringing that customer through the process of a financial journey, and then managing it over time. Everything is today happening somewhere in some form, the AI or in a word, a traditional ML is used. So it's nothing new that we have found a new thing. It's happening. Just that we are slowly realizing. And given that the awareness today is very high, people are trying to understand why did I get a message from through my mobile and why not I'm getting a phone call. So there is a difference. If you are not targeted through a phone call, that there is a certain algorithm behind that didn't prioritize you through a phone call, then maybe through a message. Right? So that's happening. And what is going to happen down the line 5 years? Then a lot of things going to happen. For example, if you have seen today any particular any technical product, or maybe you are whoever is using mobile, maybe down the before 10 years, there's just a phone. Today is not just a phone; it's much smarter than that. You can do a lot of things on top of it, right? And it has integrated today. The very basic thing today, we have the sensors through which you can play with it, and you can do a lot of things. What I believe in down the line 5 years, already iPhone has built a lot of AI layers on the mobile we have. Similarly, you do see a lot of applications are built on top of it, and which would be everyone's hand, and people would play like any toy. So it would be so simple and so easy. So that's how I see it down the line 5 years. It is impacting, and it will impact our life.
If we have to think from a macro point of view, it is common sense that finance drives economy. And if India has to go from a $4 trillion economy to a $35 trillion, which is the aim which our Honorable Prime Minister is setting us for 2047, we cannot do anything without actually driving finance to the next level. And if we have to do that, everybody believes that an incremental technology adoption cannot do anything for us, but we need disruptive technology frameworks that will change the landscape for us. India, thankfully, has figured out through the digital public infrastructure the two facets of the fintech world. One is the identity layer, which we all have been beneficiaries of by the Aadhaar framework and multiple other frameworks that have been rolled out over the last decade or so. The second layer is the payment framework, which the gentleman just talked a few minutes before. And again, we all have been beneficiaries. More than us, I think the bottom of the pyramid have been beneficiaries of these two layers, right? People who didn't have the any kind of identity or who didn't know how to go to a bank and initiate a payment have fundamentally benefited out of this, right? And of course, there are multiple numbers being talked about in terms of how much these technologies have created or added value to our GDP. I think the next layer is going to be credit. So the identity is fairly figured out.
The payment is fairly figured out. We are also taking it to the global level. The next thing which is going to revolutionize finance and obviously revolutionize the way of life for a lot of people, and application of technologies like AI ML will be the significant development which we all will see. Thank you.
When you look at the transformation that we all have gone through, the generational transformations, probably a decade over decade, this is probably the AI generation or AI decade that we are going through, right? It's been there, but the acceleration is picking up. The acceleration of AI transformation is dramatically picking up. And if you look at probably a year ago to till now, the acceleration has been quadrupled or even more, right? So what it transforms into is in our everyday life, especially point of the customization, which is really coming down to the personalization of your own information, right? Which is, how do I serve you better? It is all machines are learning that. Machines are learning you. Machines are becoming better to understand what you want. How can that be served to you, right? I think that transformation has been more manual till now, right? It is when you automate it, part of the true characteristics, the behaviors that you wanted to really exhibit out of what you wanted to get out of it, you're going to get it out through the machines, right? So that's a power to start with. And second thing I just wanted to add on there is, especially the fintech layer or a financial services layer, and my partner here rightfully called out, which is finance is the center of the world, right? Everything is centered around finance. And when you look at your financial information, how that is secured enough, how that is being monitored, how that is being looked into in terms of your banking or in terms of your trading, in terms of your own activities that you do with finance, everything is going to change in a way that it is going to be much more personalized, much more into the aspect of how best can I do, what is the best, and a lot of those recommendations come to you rather than you seeking that. Lastly, I want to conclude with this, which is recently I saw a post on LinkedIn which said humans are going after machines in terms of phones. We're all watching phones, but machines are reading us, right? When machines are reading us, they are becoming smarter, and that smartness is what going to reflect back onto what we do on a day-to-day life.
Very well said. Very well said, sir. Thank you. So I'll just double click on one of the key points that you mentioned, right? The hyper personalization, or how customers will see an evolution of kind of services that we'll see, right? So you and Sarah represent a global firm, Paytm, right? Anand represents an Indian giant, and Sir represents a startup. So how individually within your, I would say an industry level, right? How are you guys getting ready for the wave? What kind of changes should each of your industries what should the audience take from each of these industries as the next wave, from a technology perspective or from a consumer perspective? What should they be expecting, or anything of that?
Yeah, I think I'll address that in a couple of ways, right? And then probably pass it back this way. I think from a consumer point of view, you have to be cautious about how is your data, is that data secured enough or not, right? Your personal information, is that secured enough or not, right? How far it is, how global it is being transformed into, and how much of that is something that you want to share or not, right? Some of those are not in your control, right? So when you go onto the websites nowadays, they're asking for cookies to say, do you want to accept these cookies or not, right? Watch out. I think it is important for you to watch out what you're accepting, what you're not accepting, right? For example, the other day I was just traveling with another person, and somebody calls and says, hey, somebody is tracking you. On your Snapchat app, you turn your location services on. So they're really tracking you, right? So that means you're with this person, you're going there, right? So you have to watch out what information that you're sharing, right? That kind of impacts your personalization. And second side of it is companies, organizations, what they're trying to do is they're trying to really predict. They're trying to build those predictive models around your personal data. right? So we have a lot of our focus right now is a lot of that chatbot technologies we are bringing in, and making sure that we are able to address your questions, your personal questions, much more freely and much more accurately, right? That accuracy is increasing as we speak, but we are not there yet, right? It's a journey. The model is improving as we speak, but I think it all comes back to understanding the intent. That is where the model maturities are coming along, the multi-model maturities, the intent behind that human behavior. More we understand, more personalization that we can start doing, and that's the journey that we are in. And as we mature enough, the serving to the customer becomes much more easier and much more accurate as well.
Yeah, probably I'll talk about the context a bit. The gentleman talked about the intent. So we are in the trade finance industry, and everybody knows that when a small business buys or sells something to another business, it is not a straight line, right? So there are dips and there are seasonalities attached to it. There are a lot of dynamic situations where a customer is paying you very early. There are situations where the customer pays you late, right? And it's not just about telling a financial institution that, hey, go and fund this guy for about 10 lakhs, right? But it also is about giving the context. And that context can only be established when we look at large data sets, we look at the history within that spectrum of that industry, and we are able to bring intelligence which doesn't exist in the financial services ecosystem. So today, all of us know that banks are dependent on credit bureaus, right? So when somebody applies for a personal loan, or when somebody applies for a corporate loan, or a personal loan, the usual thing or a baseline thing which a financial institution does is to check about your financial history of what you have done, whether you have defaulted or paid your home loans, paid your EMIs properly, right? Now, this is a very baseline kind of checking that happens with the historical data that the system has captured. But what about people who do not have a history of data, right? What about people who face new dimensions of business? So today I might be a small business, serving about 100 customers. But the moment I get listed on an Amazon, or the moment I get listed on an e-commerce website, probably I'm staring at a million plus kind of customers who could come and ask me for business, right? And how do I meet the financing needs of these transactions is a fundamental challenge which trade finance institutions do not know how to solve currently. Because on balance sheet, on financial history, I may be worth only X lakhs or X crores in terms of my eligibility to draw financing. But I have a genuine case of looking at an hyperactive business traction which needs financing solutions, right? That's where ProFintech comes in. We are working with some of the voluntary organizations like iSpirit, which was at the beginning of UPI before even the NPCI came into picture. iSpirit was championing UPI payment ecosystems, and they are at the front end of bringing innovations which have an impact for the next decade or 2 decades, right? It's not about just trying to solve what is in front of us for the next year or so, but about creating something which can impact generations. So we are working with them. There's a first cohort which has come out where we are looking at large data sets and applying machine learning technologies to figure out if we can make this a kind of an auto decision process, right? Where people may not bring the data sets which usually people bring to a bank, but looking at their identity and looking at the industry and the trading situation they are in, we are able to make a decision that yes, this business would require this kind of financing at this point in time, and make that a kind of fulfilling story for that business. Because from a trade perspective, if you are not giving financing at the time of the need, then we should not be existing in the first place, right? So it's like a hospital. It's like a hospital in many ways, because if a patient walks in with a pain or a problem, and if you're not able to solve it and ask them to fill a form or give some do some requirements, then what's the use of being a financial institution in the first place? So we are thinking from that perspective, Kumar, and we are on an initial journey because the financial services industry is highly regulated. There are a lot of other challenges of risk, etc., which we need to solve for. But I think the direction that we are all taking is in the right spirit.
The way I see it in this case is that this is a win-win situation for both industry as well as the customers. So industry want to do better in their margins so that business can float, they can make good money over time, and customer wants better experience. So then needs to be balanced. Now, how AI is doing it? AI is, the way I see it, AI is going to enable it so that business has better way to make money. At the same time, as a customer, I get better experience. That's what we want. And at the same time, the beautiful things are happening as you see in this landscape for last 2 to 3 years, right? So if you look at simple KYC, know your customer. So simple things where you upload your documents. Today people are just calling you, call over a video. You do not need to go to a particular bank or something and just prove it that you are the customer, right? So there are a lot of things are happening through this, and this is where, in a way, AI is making many things as an enabler. So it also brings like a lot of concerns as customer says, my data is get secured? Am I sharing whatever the data I'm sharing? These are my personal information. I'm giving right consent so that the models are getting built or the customers are getting targeted. So I think that's where government is going to do a lot of role. And in the same scenario, RBI also playing critical role where, as you see over time, in US it is always there. The market is well regulated and a lot of compliance is there. And I do see India is going to catch up on that. RBI has already put a lot of rules and regulations to build a lot of things. And recently you have seen this AI advisory came out, like how to build models, how to do things, but that's still not getting enforced. But the way I see it, that's in some point of time going to happen. So customer needs to look at it in more positive way so that the data is secure. The trust is going to be built.
Just to refresh the question, what the customers should foresee or expect as we grow in the AI world, especially towards the fintech, right? So pretty much covered by the folks over the panel. I will just complement the answers and totally agree in aligned with the directions the folks has already described the things. But I will just add 2 points over here, right? Whatever the next outcomes that we're gonna see, right? Whatever the next products that the customers gonna see will always be accompanied by 2 dimensions. One is on the fingertips, that is speed. So just to give an example, right? Let's take an example of KYC. So previously, when you used to go to a bank, it used to take maybe few days for you to complete the KYC because you have to submit the form, submit the documents and all those things. Nowadays, you just go there, fill the details and you're done. It's on your fingertips and it's with the accuracy, right? Lending. The underwriting nowadays is on the fingertips. You just apply for it and within few seconds you will get an SMS, congratulations. Yeah. Or even nowadays it's going even above that. Without applying, you are getting the messages that congratulations, you've been allotted. So definitely with the accuracy, a lot of accuracy gonna increase, a lot of speed gonna increase, and the second dimension is affordable experts, I would say. So if I just ask in the room, right, how many people here have a wealth manager? Maybe very few, hardly one hand or maybe nothing, right? So, but with the help of AI, with the help of technology, the segment of robo advisors or the wealth advisors which are affordable to the medium class, right, to affordable to the new young generation is gonna happen, and that credit goes to the AI world, right? Because finance is a very, very big world where you have to diversify, you have to learn a lot of things, right? And if an expert is sitting out there giving you an advice very cheaply, which also works in your direction according to your goals, that's something you should expect going forward in the fintech world. That's my 2 takes on it.
There are multiple challenges, but one of the positive things which I would like to start this, Kumar, is that whether we like it or not, the rules in the financial services industry or the regulations in financial services industry have been unknowingly made by the wrong set of people, right? When I say wrong set of people, these are defaulters. So when one Nirav Modi uses an instrument like a letter of credit to defraud the system, suddenly the entire rules for millions of other customers have been framed, right? It's like almost somebody going and crashing into a divider and then, without doing any checks on why the accident happened, we come up and put a traffic light or a signboard saying that this is an accident prone zone, right? So that has unfortunately happened over the years. So the good thing which is happening in this space is that a lot of data is coming into use, and RBI and SEBI and multiple other financial regulators who are the key stakeholders in the system are kind of believing that we need to look at the larger pools of data and bring in things like AI and ML before taking decisions which can impact the lives of people. Because obviously if I decide based on one Nirav Modi whether to lend or not to the next million customers standing in the line, I would have probably done a disservice to several customers. So that I think will be is a good thing which is happening. There are several challenges as you can imagine. Regulations always take time to catch up with any new technologies, and that is big in India because it's also about financial stability, right? Finance has both angles, right? It's a kind of a double-edged sword. So on the positive side, it can fuel the economy, it can fuel the growth. But if you don't do it the right way, the economy can just spiral down and create huge problem for everybody, not just for government and RBI, but even for common people. You guys would have heard what happened in countries like Zimbabwe, right? Or what happened in countries like Argentina, etc., when there was spiraling inflation. And all of us have seen that to buy 1 kilo of tomato, people used to take a pile of cash in a country like Zimbabwe to do that, right? Obviously, we don't want to go through that situation. So there will be a lot of caution before mainstreaming these technologies. But I am an optimist. I think that as the adjacent technologies or adjacent systems like the identity layers, the payment ecosystems, and things like account aggregator. I don't know how many of you have heard about that. Today, there is a regulated framework called account aggregator, which, if you give consent, can actually touch all your financial services providers like banks and NBFCs and take out a history of what happened in the past, right? So as these adjacent technologies and ecosystems mature, I think there will be a greater propensity for government and RBI to support adoption of AI and ML, not just adoptions, but also to support mainstreaming these technologies. But till the time these things mature and till the time it is proven with data sets, we still have to bear with a little bit of a slowness, which is okay. I mean, we don't want to take a step and suddenly get into problems, right? So that's what I'm seeing.
True challenges point of view, I probably put India probably on the better side of it than rest of the countries, right? To be in fact, because our fintech industry has been really matured, right? The great example is the previous session that we really had, the NPCL, that is driving a billion people systems, right? That kind of maturity is probably not there even in US, right? So I think definitely we are better off. AI, right? I think European is slightly better in terms of the regulations. They at least came up with a AI Act, right? We haven't seen that come out of India. So if something that like that comes out, and which is gives us clarity on what can be done, what can be done, I think it just gets us another edge as well. And even in India, government wise, there is a lot of support for AI. AI in India is definitely a big motivating factor for entire India as a whole. So I know the gentleman spoke about the underlying financial challenges. I don't want to go into that specific things, but I think the challenges, if anything at all, I think for us is the variations and the maturity level of people that we deal with. the billion people, that really brings in a quite wide spectrum of the maturity and the adoption, and how do we really tune our technologies to adopt that spectrum of the variation, whether it is highly educated to not educated. How do we really deal with that, right? I think we are much better there in already in fintech world, but I think AI will be enabler, but we need to solve some of those underlying challenges that comes with it.
The AI is nothing but, just in a simple words, this is a data stack, and using the data, there is the models are built and then models are getting deployed. So currently the process is that how can you make it this two endpoint within a very quick interval of time, so that's where you have a better business to be there, and then you will make an impact to the customers. So doing that is where the current challenges are more. Like, how do you first prepare those data? How do you gather the data in the particular business context? I think many times people are struggling there to gather data and preparing the data on which you can build a model. This model is nothing like you just put in garbage in and garbage out, right? So it will not learn anything magical, whatever, nothing there in the data. You need to make sure whatever the use case you have in hand, you understand the problem well, and keeping the right set of the data and putting to the right kind of algorithm and get the right set of output. Now you have an output. Model is trained. Everything is good. But you can't put it in production because your production framework or the current the hardware or the architecture is available in the technical stack that is not capable to do it. For example, I build a model using a Gen AI Llama 7 million model, and I want to make a fraud detection on this, which I need to make a decision within maybe 1 to 2 milliseconds. That is impossible to do, because you need to generate data and pass through the model and get it out, right? So that required a massive infrastructure to do that particular inferencing or scoring to make it work. So it is not about the technology or the financial world, the required technology. It is not about this machine learning and AI algorithm. That requires the infrastructure and certain kind of hardware and software stack to support to that. And that's where the fintech, so-called tech, is helping the fin side of it to evolve faster. And that's a big thing happening, and this will keep evolving as we speak. And that's the beauty of this complete world.
Again, it's the fourth term. Most of the things are being covered. But yeah, 2 points. Very, very important things said by my friend Sarah. Garbage in, garbage out. It's the data quality that's gonna be used to train the model to actually say that we're gonna be an AI leader, or we're gonna be having a lot of AI driven applications, is gonna play a very, very important role, right? And that's one thing, I guess, where we as an Indian or as an as a country have to do a lot of work on. Definitely now we have some base through the Aadhaar, through the PAN, right? But still a lot of things to be done, which says, okay, these are the unique identifications and all these are the well structured data which I can use to train my model, which will produce the accuracy which I am expecting, right? So a lot of importance has to be given to the data quality if we want to excel into the AI world. And the second thing, from the India's perspective, right, on the AI journey, what I see is adoption, right? We are very, very diversified country, right? Religion, caste, wealth levels, a lot of diversions, right? You just imagine, suppose if the demonetization would have not happened, for example, what would have been the percentage of UPI transactions or the digital wallet transactions as of now? I'm pretty sure the upper layer would have adopted it very, very nicely and would have done it, adopted it very nicely and have given a lot of inputs to it. But the lower layer, which is a larger layer into the Indian ecosystem, right, might have struggled a little bit, because it might be possible that much effort into the adoption might have not been kept if the demonetization would have not happened, right? To do, even if we build a lot of AI driven applications, right, a lot of efforts needs to be put for the adoption to the lower level, right? We have a tier 2, tier 3 people who still believes in in the cash market, right? They still want to do a cash transactions. Now you're just saying that okay, there is a chat bot or there is a voice bot, right, which will just do the transactions for you. Just tell it, right? How much changes they have to bring in their day-to-day life or their thought process, that whether this is gonna happen fine or not, even if it is a 10 rupees transaction, 100 rupees transaction, right? So that adoption, the drive for the adoption has to be there with a lot of force from the AI's perspective. Whatever application you deliver, you have to be on the ground. You have to make it very, very usable, very easy to use. In a different targeting different segments, maybe language wise, the region wise, and then drive for the adaptability. Until unless that won't be done, I think it will be a slow start. Slowly it will pick up, but for a faster thing, like to tell the story like UPI, right? You need either some event like demonetization, or you need some force which actually drives the adoption. Sure. Let me start maybe this time. With AI, there are a lot of challenges for sure, and responsible AI. Actually, I'm very, very happy that responsible AI is picking up early in the days, right? If you see the boom of 2000, right, where we were adopting towards the technology, the backslashes that could happen because of the technology was not brought that wisely or with that much voice previously, and then slowly we saw that the impact over it, right? But it's really good if we start with the responsible AI from the day zero, or in the early days itself. It's very important. It's very, very helpful technology, and at the same time it can be very, very dangerous for us, right? Because both the sides of world exist, right? You will see people who wants to build the applications who are like really helpful, but at the same time you will see the people who just want to ditch you, or who just want to make a fraud or make money out of it, right? So to create this responsible AI, early stage regulations, or a kind of community which can say, okay, these are the standards which will be followed while releasing an AI app or an AI feature, right? Anything, it's kind of gold market standards we have, right? If you're going to have a buy a gold somewhere, right? You generally see that okay, these tests are being passed, or any software you see, you generally check these are the security checks which are being passed or not, right? If you can together come up with an standard that okay, whatever the application or the feature that you are building through the help of AI or living as an AI, it has to go through certain security checks, or it has to pass certain benchmarks, and that becomes a kind of hallmark that okay, this is a sanitized app which it's not gonna harm the general people, right? And that will build a sense of trust within the people, that okay, I'm going to have an application which will be working for me rather than working against me, right? So it's gonna be a very important charter as we grow in the AI world. It will be very interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, so this is very interesting theme, like responsible AI. So, but when we say responsible AI, so first we need to understand what do we mean by that, right? So it is where the responsible lies. So it is the person or the company or the organization who is building these models, right? So the model is built, and then model is used for certain decision. For example, if you are getting a card or a credit decisioning is happening, you know that decisioning happens. So now I will just catch up on two themes, which is very important, I believe. One is the model bias, and second part is that how can you bring accountability through transparency. So what I mean by the model bias is that when I build a model, like as you collect the data, there is a certain inherent bias into it. For example, you collected a certain amount of data only because the person who surveyed or the way the data is collected, it is targeted to only male. not much female. Now the data is highly biased towards male, so because he has seen more attributes of those male population, so when the decisions are made, and it says you are likely to get more profitable if you target a male customer rather than female. Now this is a bias inherent to the data that is selected and the model you build and the algorithm you choose to build these models, right? So now but the important part is that the regulator who is looking into this model, or let's say I own the model, so my primary purpose is to understand, is this model is biased towards something or not? Is it biased towards a certain language or certain race? So how can you make sure that? That is one responsibility lies with which building this model and posting to the customers at a final decision. Second part is that the interpretable AI or explainable AI. So now the decisions are made. Now we need to explain. I say, no, Kumar, I can't give you a credit of next. Let's say you are asking for, let's say, 1 lakh incremental credit or a credit line increase. Now I am saying, no, I'm not going to give you the credit line increase. Then I need to explain you why I'm not going to give you this credit line increase. Right? That part, when I build into my system, I'm creating the transparency. So Kumar would be more now trustworthy with me, that he believes me what I'm saying, how my decisions are made, and that is the responsibility lies with me. Right? So these two aspects are really more important. There are more to it, but these are two critical things today, how the models are built.
One, I think, as I mentioned in the previous comment, the financial services ecosystem is highly regulated. And the good part is that a lot of financial intermediaries, whether it is insurance companies or banks, are regulated, which is not the case in many industries, right? So today, if you look at media or if you look at technology companies, they are not regulated. None of the Facebooks or Googles of the world are regulated, right? So in those sectors or in those industries, obviously the technology will be miles ahead of regulations before we open up our eyes and see that there are certain things which have happened the way which we didn't want to happen. Fortunately for us, the financial services industry is regulated, and also the service providers have an element of discretion. So if you are a bank or an insurance company, you're not allowed to just go ahead and go give loans to anybody, right? So there are certain ways and means of looking at it. For example, if there was a small company here which comes up and says that, hey, I would like to build a factory which will manufacture, say, machine guns or say narcotic substances, they're not going to get the loan, right? Because these are banned business activities. Fundamentally, they will not be allowed to come inside. So talking about the ethical side of AI and ML technologies, I think there is a fundamental design level deterrence which has been built because of the nature of this industry, because of the nature of these regulations. So I personally think, and I could be wrong here, this is based on my experience and my bias, that there may be very less scope for things to just crop up out of the blue and create ethical issues within the spectrum of fintech or financial services ecosystem. That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
I think we are evolving, right? Ethics play a big role in the entire AI spectrum. Organizations are really transforming their chief ethical officer into chief ethical AI officer, right? To make sure that there are ethics that are looked from an AI spectrum point of view. It's very important. So I look at it as probably 3 or 4 sectors. One is what organizations are doing, making sure they are doing ethical AI, ethics at the center of the AI. The second dimension is government, as the gentleman talked about, the regulations, the AI acts that are coming together, that really plays a big vital role. And third, we all are consumers. We are on consumer side of it. We also have to play a role into it to make sure that ethically we are able to consume the services that are being offered and challenge if something that is not right. I think we all have a say in this entire ecosystem. And overall, I think ethics is one of the reason probably AI didn't take off as much as it's supposed to as we are sitting here today, right? Because ethics, the kind of data controls that we want to put around, the kind of regulations that we want to, everything passing through that stages makes it even becomes challenging in these LLM models because they want a lot of data and all of the data is fed in. There are no controls in it. Then how do you really make sure that data is controlled enough and ethically correct enough to make sure that we are serving the right information to the right people at the right time, right? I think these things all play a vital role as we evolve, and ethics is really organizations are putting at the center of it as they evolve the AI practice as a whole.
I think one of the very interesting themes which is taking shape is the whole data and behavior footprint that we are generating as consumers, whether it's a corporate entity or whether it is an individual consumer, right? There is tremendous amount of data across various platforms and systems that is getting generated. I have taken an Uber in the morning to come here. I have made a payment using my GPay or PhonePe. I'll probably go back and do something, take a metro rail or something. So there is a data and a behavior footprint which is getting generated. Now the challenge is how do we bring these together, right? And whether we like it or not, there is a very thin line between snooping on privacy and creating something for the productive use. Now sitting in Hyderabad, we've all been reading news about phone tappings and things like that, right? So, people will always have a fundamental challenge of where do we draw the line? But to answer to your question, Kumar, is that if we can find a way in a clean and ethical manner to integrate the data footprint that we all generate, it is going to evolve into financial magic, right? We will see a day very soon where AI and ML will be able to give out a very, very curated experience of what financial products, at what rates of interest, at what points of time that you will be needing from the financial services providers, right? And that is going to fundamentally change the way the financial services ecosystem or industry has been built over a period of time. But more exciting is that it is going to bring a lot of changes into our way of life, because now we are going to get access, we are going to get better rates, we are going to get better financial products driven and fueled by AI and ML, right? So those are my thoughts around this.
One important thing, the way I see currently is happening or also will happen. So one thing which has happened is the financial inclusion. That is a good part which has happened, and then payment systems are in place. Now these things are placed. Now as a young India is growing up, what they need is the financial stability. So that is one of the important thing. What is the country is going to do something about it, and that is coming up. For example, so there are, as you have seen, there are very minimal instruments where people can diversify their wealth. Today, that is increasing. You may have seen these mutual funds have taken a lot of traction last 4 or 5 years, and people have started investing in stocks. Now they're getting learned in how to do that. Now there will be more safer instrument will be created where people will be more going to invest and make sure they have their financial stability. So that is what I think will happen. And I can give, there are some interesting stuff like pay over time, or they call it pay later. That's the easy credit everyone has in some form of the other, right? Where they can get that credit and do some sensible transaction out of it and then pay back, right? At the same time, what we see as easy credits are coming, that has its own challenge. So as we are going through these systems of change, we need to find that balance and make sure we get to a stable scenario where the country's wealth is safe and sustained over time.
My 2 cents on the question, Kumar. The answer is yes, I would say. To me, AI for India or India with the AI, there are 2 things which are required. One is the talent, and the second is intent. And we in India have both, and in plenty, right? So it's gonna happen for sure. We gonna be leader sooner. That's my belief. And it's gonna happen for India, especially in the fintech domains, health domains, where we have a lot of to catch up. and the acceleration that we'll see in those catch-ups is will be something which the world will see for sure. That's what I think.
Seriously, I think it all starts with the talent, right? And we are here sitting here in JNTU Hyderabad, where there are a lot of students that are really growing up in AIML specialization, right? Which when I'm growing up, there I didn't even hear any of those terms, right? Of course, it's a while back. So the reality is the talent is being built around AI here. That's definitely the number one big positive. The second side of it is we have already done in payment systems. We've done it. We have the subject matter expertise. We have the kind of financial background, financial systems, how they operate, what it is, what the challenges are at scale, right? We talked about scale as well. So we've seen it all, right? So we have the advantage than any other country in the world. And I think that combination is super powerful. When we bring that together and the intent that he talked about, and our heart is there, right? We are there, we are technologists, we are passionate, and we bring that passion together and make that happen. I think we're going to be very powerful. And it starts from top down, right? Our leaders like Modi all the way down, it is AI centric, how they're driving India to be AI centric. I think all of that just fuels, comes together, and we're going to be a very powerful country as we go along.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
This conference is the largest AI conference in the country that has been held with an overwhelming response and resounding success, with 2,000 plus participation of academics, researchers, IT professionals, students and representatives from the government organizations. And this conference is deliberating on a lot of issues which have a real place for the people's issues to be solved. And from the tracks of fintech to the agri-tech to the health sciences to the life sciences to foundational research in AI, there are close to 8 and 9 tracks that include journalism, creative media industry, and all the issues that are related to the commons in all of these sectors is being jotted down, and the deliberations are being held to see on how do we solve problems for the commons. This conference began with the launch of a AI model where people communicate with the machines. There were 3 farmers who lost their dear ones because of electrocution. It's not that the farmers do not know how to switch a motor on or switch a motor off, but rather they just got electrocuted because when they water the fields, they get drenched in water, and one droplet of water from their little finger or index finger when they switch on the button is sufficient to be electrocuted. And this AI model that we built enables the farmers to communicate with machines, and while doing so, it made it really possible for them to give oral commands, either to switch the motor on or switch the motor off. They can do it remotely, they can do it near the borewell site, or they could with the borewell site. And I think this is something which is going to be a path-breaking thing, because farmers being able to communicate with machines, agricultural workers being able to communicate with machines, we are only one step away from people with different languages being able to speak to each other. The only thing that is required is language models in different languages, and then there is already a bridge of being able to talk to one another. And the 3 farmers, we have called them. One is a mother of a farmer who died because of electrocution. Her name is Bhimamma. The other woman whose husband passed away because of electrocution, and her name is Ashamma. And there was Basavaraj who lost his brother. There are thousands of farmers who just get electrocuted, not because they don't know the why and how of switching on and switching off motors, but rather because of the harsh climatic conditions or the harsh conditions in which they need to live and work. And this conference is a resounding success, the first of its kind in India, and I thank all the people and the support that we got from everyone in making this conference a grand success.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
Impact Hub has been very supportive in this entire journey for Buddy, in making connects, in making, available in different formats. And most importantly, Buddy has a complete tech module built, supporting the operations and the entire journey that we follow. So we have a B2C booking app that we've created where the online bookings takes place. And also we have a fleet management software where the entire operations of vehicles and the entire management of inventory takes place on the back end. Through Impact Hub, we've been able to make better connects and better reach into the market. And we are aiming to provide our SaaS model into the European market as well to different logistics companies and also different players in the segment.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartup TV.
Today, having come to this session, it was very, very insightful and a lot of learning on the ESG parameters, rating scales. Given the current situation of where, ESG, looking at ESG is inevitable, I think we start off on this path that towards, more sustainable, more renewable future. I think that is what we are all aiming to be. And at LGT also works with a similar sort of a theme in mind where they're very, very passionate about climate change and sustainable development goals. We take the entire gamut very seriously. So looking forward to learning more from Impact Hub and getting associated in any meaningful manner.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartup TV.
So today we talk about sustainability a lot. It's probably a buzzword. So it simply means that to meet our needs without compromising on our future generations. So today here we are to make sure we Impact Hub as a team follows that ecosystem, make your startups connect with different nations, spread your wings. And I here in Hyderabad as part of Impact Hub member take care of all the sales and sales strategies. So if you have any queries, please do contact us. We are here to make a footprint in future generations.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartup TV.
All right, Carmen, we are here in Hyderabad. What are we even doing here? Who are we?
Yeah, good question. We are Tomorrow, and we are a consulting service provider. So we are doing ESG consulting with 100% ESG focus. And why are we here in Hyderabad? Today we had a little workshop to raise the awareness of the topic ESG because it will come to India as one of the most pressing issues in the next years, from climate change to social issues. And we will really need to, kickstart maybe the ESG movement in India as well. So Justus, what do you think are the main drivers of ESG in India?
The main drivers, I think, are of regulatory nature and coming from investors all over the world. So even Indian companies that are working with European companies or American companies are pressured by investors or by their clients to disclose more ESG information and to make transparent their sustainability efforts in the environmental, social, and governance sphere. Karen, coming over to you. What are our expectations, or what were our expectations coming here as a small consulting startup from Germany? We are 8 people. What did we expect to find here, and did we find it?
Yes. In fact, it was like we are part of the Impact Hub in Germany, and we had like the opportunity to meet one of our fellow participants in the Impact Hub in Leipzig, who started here the Impact Hub in Hyderabad as a candidate right now and will soon be turning to a real Impact Hub. And that was one of the reasons we heard a lot about the Indian companies starting with sustainability, starting thinking about all the green and circularity topics. And so we did some own research and discovered that India is really making good progress in that area. And I think it's the right time to come here and to provide all the learnings we have with the European regulations. We know some of them are really a burden to companies, but some of them are really a good start. And to give that knowledge to companies here in India and help them or support them to build their own ESG within their companies. So, Justus, what do you think? Is there a comparison if you compare like Europe's ESG regulations with India's efforts right now? What do you think? What are the pros and cons? What is India making better than Europe and the other way around? So, Justus, if you look at the ESG efforts done in Europe and in India until now, what is your opinion if you compare these two?
Well, I think while Europe has the more comprehensive regulations as of now, and so more companies are obliged to report ESG informations and also quite comprehensive ESG information, India is catching up very, very fast. The largest 1,000 stock listed companies in India are now obliged to publish a certain set of ESG KPIs already, and this will have a trickle down effect throughout all the economy. And I'm sure that in the next few years in India, but also in other international places elsewhere, which is why we are so interested to get to know other legislations outside of the EU and are trying to venture here or to other places. The requirements will still rise and more companies will be obliged to report ESG information and also develop ESG strategies, which is something we can assist companies with all over the world. What do you think can be our USP when working with Indian companies specifically, but maybe with companies when consulting them with ESG in general?
Yeah, good question. As you mentioned before, we are quite small and we started 2 years ago. So we have to really think about what is the USP. So our competitors are, some part of the time, are the big four, so the big consulting firms worldwide. And of course, they have more resources. But what we can offer our clients, I think, is the most important thing is that we are not like a standard solution we send to them and they should just fill it out. But instead, we care for them individually and we work with them together as partners so that we can find the perfect solution that tailors their needs. And this way, I think we can really have a good case example for our potential clients. I think if you want to build on that, are there other regions, if you think globally, that would be interesting for ESG efforts in the next few years?
So in general, I think what we tried here was to really leverage the impact that the Impact Hub has, the network that they have globally with their locations all over the world. So we have been in Germany, of course, where our headquarters are in Leipzig, are with the Impact Hub actually. We have been to Vienna, we have been to other places already, and now for the first time here in India. And this was really a great opportunity to get to know the Indian market. Now when we are looking at other markets where also Impact Hubs are, the US is of course a large market, the largest polluter of the world, of course. Some African markets could also make sense. And they all face, at least in the initial phase of ESG, similar challenges, I think, that we can help address.
Yeah, I think that was your comparison with the elementary school going to university. So we are now in the global state. We are in the phase of elementary school. So for each of the company, they have the same challenges. They have to report really, really similar KPIs. Yep. So with that, I think we can really, really help. Very good, because we're experienced in collecting all the data. And the other field is like the ESG rating. So what's about the ESG ratings and how can we help with that?
Well, the ESG ratings, ESG rating agencies are the ones that actually evaluate the ESG efforts of companies and then tag a grade to them and say company A is more sustainable than company B. This can be quite unfair sometimes, as it requires companies to report those ESG informations first, or they get a bad rating automatically. And this is something where we can assist with improving the information level so the rating gets better, and also then improving the rating by addressing the specific needs that this rating has. And this is something that we have successfully consulted companies on in the EU and are now looking to do worldwide, as those ESG ratings are something that are applied globally to every company from every sector with the same methodology. We have the methodology, so to say, experience, and can thus help companies the best.
Yes, definitely. I think also that the background we have as founders of the companies really caters to that, because we have, like, on one hand side, from my side, that's the strategy consulting experience. So I can have a better view of what board levels and supervisory boards want from their company and how to communicate with them. And from your perspective, it's the capital markets, right?
Yeah. So I'm coming from investor relations originally, got started in a little firm where I addressed the capital markets needs, first financially, then non-financially. So from an ESG perspective, helping companies get their first ESG reports going. So I think this is something that many Indian companies will have to do in the next years, get this first major step done. First ESG information is gathered, first ESG report done. And this is something where we have the experience in helping companies with.
Definitely. Okay.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartup TV.
Europe's regulations were really a good training so that we can now use our knowledge of the challenges, of the weaknesses of global ESG efforts to bring them to other countries and to kickstart the ESG efforts everywhere. Because I think ESG is a global issue, but it has to be tackled locally. And for that, we have to stop thinking in silos and start understanding the specific challenges in each part of the world so that we can raise ESG to the next level altogether.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartup TV.
So currently we're focusing on sustainability, circularity, and helping the startups in scale up to the international markets. So we have very good connects with the Global Impact Hub network, which is spread across 70 plus countries and 130 plus locations. So right now it's chance for the Hyderabad and the Indian ecosystem partners and the players here in the startup ecosystem to join hands with us and help us scale up in the international markets.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartup TV.
It was a great pleasure to be here in Hyderabad today to discuss with the audience on the issue of ESG and see where we can assist companies that are here in India with their ESG efforts. Seeing that we have already worked with multiple clients in Europe with advanced regulations, we think this was the perfect training ground for us to now tackle the Indian market and their needs in terms of ESG, as this will be an ever-growing field that is still developing and where Indian companies will also need assistance in the future. It was a great pleasure to be here today to discuss those issues. We were able to go the whole mile from ESG ratings to ESG analytics and ESG data gathering, and it will be a great pleasure to be back someday soon.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartup TV.
So when I'm telling candidate, we are just on the finishing stage, taking the baby steps on one front and then finishing off, getting onto the Impact Hub Hyderabad soon on March 18th. And proudly want to say that we are first in India and Hyderabad, here we are. Looking forward for a complementing business with all the startups that are into sustainability, circular economy, and multiple other factors. Let's work together, complement, understand. We are the listening ears. Impact Hub is here. Looking forward.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
I'm a social media enthusiast. I take care of branding and marketing at Impact Hub Hyderabad. So I'm looking forward to create an impact and grow together with Impact Hub Hyderabad.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to MyStartuptv.
Hi, Carmen and Eustace. Welcome to Hyderabad, India. I know you have experienced a bit in Pune and you have traveled to Varanasi and Raebareli, both on a professional and also on a personal front. So how do you feel? What are the feelings from you? Just to start this conversation very informally, please go ahead.
In general, India is a lot. A lot of good things, a lot of maybe unusual things for us Germans coming from Leipzig 1 month ago, but it's very intense and a great experience that we will probably look back to for pretty much the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I think there have been a lot of first-time experiences while or during our stay here in India. With the 2 months here, it's a long time to experience a lot, and we are pretty sure, and we now have decided that we will come back next year with more time because it's such a great country that we want to see more of it.
Thanks a lot, Justus and Carmen, for your wonderful remarks. I mean, I just wanted to be very straight and very honest, but you gave your thoughts very open. And I'm really very much impressed that you just want to come back to India again, both on a personal front and a professional front. Am I right?
Yes, definitely. So personal front is we've been here for 2 months and we worked all the time. So I have the feeling I want to be back in India to see much more and to have more time, connect with people. And on the professional front, of course, we've seen there was a huge interest today in the workshop. So that was really overwhelming for us. And we see there is a potential and we want to deep dive into that.